Hey everyone, this is Light Novel Sound. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're enjoying the series, feel free to leave a like and drop a comment below. It really helps the channel. And if you'd like faster updates or want to request a story, you can support the channel over on Buy Me a Coffee. You can also bookmark your progress by saving a timestamp in the comments, so you'll always know exactly where you left off. Now, let's pick up the story where we left off. Chapter 626, Behemoth's Mig. Everyone looked at the terrifying beam descending from the sky, as though it was a divine punishment that could destroy the world. Their gazes were focused on the ebony figure beneath the divine punishment. Under such a terrifying beam of light, the somewhat muscular body seemed tiny and minuscule, as though it would be drowned in a terrifying stream of light at any moment. However, from beginning to end, Tyrant Behemoth didn't move at all. It didn't raise its head to look at the beam or at Chimera. It was as though its reaction was slow, and had failed to notice the terrifying beam that descended from the sky. Boom! The beam directly struck Tyrant Behemoth's body. The streams of light constantly blasted the arena. The light exploded, drowning the entire arena in an explosion of light. Large amounts of dust rose up. How arrogant! And Xianxia frowned. He's courting death by tanking the gene disintegration ray. The Cape family was overjoyed. The characteristics of the gene disintegration ray was appraised to be impossible to withstand head-on, even for mythical companion beasts. Otherwise, their body's genes would collapse. What a waste of a treasure. The person has such a powerful companion beast like Behemoth, but his usage of it is so crude. What a waste of such a powerful companion beast. No matter how powerful a companion beast is, it will still lose if one uses it recklessly, Xianxia said coldly. That's not necessarily the case. Zhang Chengqiu narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself. Right then, in the midst of the explosion of light, a huge black mountain suddenly rose from the ground. The light blast that enveloped the arena turned into a cloud that seemed to linger around a black mountain. Although the light remained blinding, it couldn't cause any substantial damage to the mountain. As for the beam that shot down, it was like a waterfall of light. The mountain peak went against the waterfall, and the waterfall immediately scattered, unable to stop the mountain's rise. Not good. Quickly admit defeat and take back Chimera. Senator Cape's expression changed drastically as he ordered loudly. However, it was already too late. The mountain, like Tyrant Behemoth, opened its huge mouth and swallowed the stream of light along with Chimera. Instantly, the arena fell silent. The light vanished, leaving only a terrifying monster standing there. The name of Chimera on the ranking vanished, replacing it was Tyrant Behemoth. It ended just like that. Instantly, all the spectators fell silent. No one expected the battle to end like this. The extremely powerful Chimera, a ferocious beast that had once killed a dragon, was actually devoured in one mouthful. The terrifying explosion of light was like a volcanic eruption. It was as laughable as useless fireworks. Too powerful. It's really too powerful, as expected of our West District's divine beast, Behemoth. It's simply invincible. With such a powerful existence, what creature in the world can withstand it? It's way too invincible. That's Chimera. Yet, it was swallowed in one mouthful. How domineering. This is a truly invincible creature. What primordial sword immortal? What death of the underworld? They are all weak. True men have to take it all in one mouthful. God, the tyrant might really be able to destroy the world. I can't believe my eyes. Tyrant Behemoth is too powerful. If I were its master, I think I would sit at home watching television before destroying the world. That's the tyrant who rules the world. Instantly, the internet exploded with messages. Countless people were discussing Tyrant Behemoth. The faces of the Cape family members became uglier by the second. Mythical companion beasts were rare to begin with. Now that Chimera, one of the best companion beasts in the Cape family, was dead, they felt their hearts bleed as they were extremely furious. Investigate. I want a full investigation. We have to find out who the owner of Tyrant Behemoth is. Senator Cape was extremely furious as he wished he could smash the television with one punch. Zhang Xiao's expression was equally ugly. Seeing Tyrant Behemoth's strength made him feel even worse. This powerful companion beast might very well have belonged to him. Young Master Wen really has a good life. He already has a powerful companion beast like Torch Dragon, yet he has an existence like Tyrant Behemoth. Together with the six-winged guardian dragon and other companion beasts, I think his companion beasts alone can challenge a hero family. And Sheng said, "Aren't you underestimating the heritage of the six families? You're ignoring the fact that Tyrant Behemoth might not be his. Even if it is his, it's only the companion beast that's strong. With insufficient strength himself, if he really wants to challenge a hero family, it'd be useless no matter how powerful a companion beast is." And Tianzuo said, "Overseer is right," and Sheng said respectfully, "Junior brother, this behemoth of yours is pretty good. Where did you get it from?" "I'll get one later." Liu Yun's eyes lit up as he looked at Zhou Wen. "I got it at an auction." Zhou Wen took back Tyrant Behemoth and replied in a good mood. "An auction? Which auction would sell something like that?" Liu Yun didn't believe Zhou Wen at all. It would be a miracle if someone was willing to sell such a powerful companion beast. Make a guess. Zhou Wen had unknowingly been influenced by people such as the Thirch and Wang Minjuan. "Junior brother, are you interested in betting with me?" Liu Yun wasn't interested in guessing. He didn't believe Tyrant Behemoth was bought from an auction. Not interested. Zhou Wen ignored Liu Yun and returned to his tent to game. Zhou Wen didn't plan on returning for the time being. He planned on getting Tyrant Behemoth to continue making challenges, but he still needed to study the target. It wasn't suitable for him to directly challenge Primordial Sword, Immortal. However, the Federation and Overseas faction were researching Tyrant Behemoth. Many people believed that Tyrant Behemoth's strength wasn't as simple as being ranked 13th. It was very likely that it had the strength to reach first on the rankings. However, Tyrant Behemoth didn't show much. Their analysis didn't produce many results. Liu Yun went out alone. After leaving Zhou Wen, he secretly went to a small forest to summon his genie. Liu Yun reached out to rub the oil lamp. Soon, Genie appeared in front of him. However, the genie that appeared this time was different from before. Its entire body emitted a strange blue glow. "Junior brother, as your senior brother, let me teach you a good lesson." As Liu Yun spoke, he made a wish to the genie. "Genie, I wish for my life soul's power to be greatly enhanced." When the genie heard Liu Yun's wish, its body, which suffused a magical glow, drilled into Liu Yun's body. Soon, Liu Yun's entire body suffused a blue glow. "With the help of Genie and a life soul, my Star Stealer can forcefully steal the companion beast that has already hatched. That punk will never expect me to have such an ability. Unfortunately, Star Stealer can't lock onto a target. I can only steal something randomly. However, it doesn't matter. That punk has so many mythical companion beasts. With the help of the genie's wish and life soul's augmentation, I can attempt a theft 10 times. No matter how unlucky I am, I should be able to steal a mythical right. It's best if it's Tyrant Behemoth. If not, the Golden Greatsword would do," Liu Yun thought as he carefully took out something. Chapter 627, Star Stealer. Zhou Wen was grinding in the tent when he felt the jade-like tiny person suddenly open its eyes in his sea of consciousness. Its body emitted a strange treasure glow. The treasure glow turned corporeal, piercing through his consciousness, causing Zhou Wen's body to similarly emit a crystalline glow. "What's going on? Why did God's retreat suddenly activate?" Zhou Wen was somewhat surprised, as he felt a vibration coming from somewhere on his body. Upon closer inspection, He realized that the spot which was vibrating was actually a musical note sprite tattoo. There was a musical note sprite that seemed to be affected by some unknown force as it struggled to spread its wings. However, due to the influence of the treasure glow generated by God's retreat, it was unable to fly out. It was trapped by the treasure glow like a butterfly trapped in a cage. What's going on? Zhou Wen attempted to control the power that God's retreat released, preventing the power from isolating the musical note sprite tattoo. With the power of God's retreat, the musical note sprite tattoo immediately vanished under Zhou Wen's nose. It only took a blink of an eye. Furthermore, Zhou Wen had completely lost contact with the musical note sprite, as though he had never had such a companion beast. If Zhou Wen hadn't seen it disappear with his own eyes, he wouldn't have realized that he had lost a companion beast. What power took away the musical note sprite? Zhou Wen's first reaction was to expand the power of the truth listener, earring to its limit. He could hear the surrounding areas clearly. Even the falling of a strand of hair to the ground couldn't escape his ears. Soon, Zhou Wen discovered Liu Yun, who was hiding outside the town. The fellow was squatting in the grass. At a glance, it looked like he was shitting, but upon careful inspection, the fellow hadn't even taken off his pants as he mumbled something. Zhou Wen listened carefully and heard Liu Yun say, "What's wrong with my junior brother? Why does he have such trashy companion beasts?" "Junior brother, don't worry. I'm still a gentleman. I'll stop after stealing a mythical companion beast from you. Indeed, this fellow is up to no good. He's really not afraid of death." Zhou Wen took a careful look and indeed, he saw the tattoo of a musical note sprite on his body. It was identical to the one he had lost. Zhou Wen remained unperturbed. He wanted to see what Liu Yun was up to. Liu Yun didn't know that truth listener's range was that large. He was already so far away, yet Zhou Wen could still monitor him. Previously, the reason Liu Yun could make truth listener lose its effects was that he had already discovered Zhou Wen and determined that Zhou Wen was observing him. That was why he had allowed Genie to release its power to affect truth listener's abilities. Now, he didn't know that Zhou Wen could monitor him from such a distance. Furthermore, with his Star Stealer's ability, he could usually steal companion beasts without anyone noticing. It was impossible for the person he stole from to discover him. The companion beast that Liu Yun had set up to keep watch didn't notice anything from Zhou Wen. He imagined that Zhou Wen hadn't even discovered that his companion beast had been stolen. In fact, he wouldn't have discovered the disappearance of the musical note sprite if Zhou Wen didn't habitually have God's retreat activated. Anyway, there are still 9 chances. I'm sure I can steal a mythical companion beast. Liu Yun gritted his teeth and reached out to grab at the void. His fingertips shimmered with strange starlight as though something was burning. The starlight tore through the void, causing Liu Yun's hand to vanish as though it was invisible. When the hand pulled back from the void, there was a lively musical note sprite in his hand. The musical note sprite circled around him and automatically landed on him, turning into a tattoo. Just like last time, Zhou Wen felt the tattoo of a musical note sprite vibrate. He removed the power of God's retreat life soul, making the musical note sprite tattoo vanish. This fellow actually has such an ability. Doesn't that mean he's invincible? He can steal any mythical companion beast he likes. Zhou Wen was alarmed as he continued observing silently. It was better to encounter such a strange ability than to encounter it in the future. Now that he had figured out what was going on, he would have some experience for the future. He would know how to deal with it. This wasn't a bad thing for Zhou Wen. Holy SHT, why is it still a musical note sprite? Why does that punk have so many trash companion beasts with him? Liu Yun felt depressed when he saw that it was another musical note sprite. Although they're stolen randomly, the chances of obtaining the same companion beast in a row shouldn't be high, right? Liu Yun didn't believe it as he reached out to steal again. So it turns out that the ability to steal companion beasts is random. Zhou Wen discovered some problems. On Liu Yun's fingertip, there was a short strand of hair. When Liu Yun used Star Stealer, the strand of hair would burn. Zhou Wen knew at a glance that it was his hair. When did this fellow steal my hair? Zhou Wen had to admit that Liu Yun was indeed top-notch when it came to stealing. He was actually able to steal his hair without him noticing. Knowing that Liu Yun's stealing of companion beasts was random, Zhou Wen felt relieved. He had been farming musical note sprites for so long. Almost every time he respawned, he would farm the dungeon. Now, the number of musical note sprites he possessed had reached more than 4,000. Altogether, Zhou Wen had more than 5,000 companion beasts. The chance of stealing his mythical companion beasts was about 1 in 1,000. This would be extremely difficult unless one had Wang Lu's luck. Zhou Wen realized that he could only discover that Liu Yun had stolen something from him when the God's Retreat Life Soul was activated. Even Truth Listener's hearing and evil nullification were useless. If God's Retreat wasn't activated, the companion beast tattoo on his body would vanish without a trace. Unless he happened to see the tattoo disappear, it would be very difficult to discover that he had lost his companion beast. What skill is this? Where can I obtain such a skill? Zhou Wen felt that he could learn similar skills. In the future, anytime he saw people from the Cape family and the Special Inspector Bureau, he could try stealing from them. Another musical note sprite? Liu Yun nearly jumped up in frustration when he saw the companion beast he had stolen. In his rage, Liu Yun quickly grabbed with both hands, constantly using the Star Stealer to grab companion beasts one after another. Musical note sprite, musical note sprite, musical note sprite. Another musical note sprite. Liu Yun stole with both hands, but in the end, they were all musical note sprites. He had already stolen 7 of them in a row. He only had 3 chances left out of his 10 attempts. What the hell? How many musical note sprites did that punk bring with him? How can I be only getting a musical note sprite each time? Liu Yun was so angry that he nearly vomited blood. Zhou Wen chuckled inwardly. More than 90% of the companion beasts on him were musical note sprites. He wouldn't find it strange if all Liu Yun's thefts were musical note sprites. However, Zhou Wen still carefully used God's Retreat to confirm that Liu Yun didn't steal an important companion beast. Only then would he release it and let him steal it. No, I can't continue like this. That punk has countless musical note sprites on him. I have to think of a way. Liu Yun had no intention of giving up. The genie's wish had been used. Even if he didn't continue stealing, he wouldn't have his wish refunded. He could only continue stealing. Chapter 628, Life Reversing Spirit Talisman. Liu Yun hesitated for a moment. Finally, he made up his mind and took out something from his pocket. It was a strange jade talisman that was just the size of a palm. It was jade white in color, but there was a red symbol engraved on it. It looked strange. Its meaning was unknown. It wasn't easy for me to get this life-reversing spirit talisman from the Zhang family. This is the only one I have. I originally planned to try my luck after meeting the owner of Primordial Sword Immortal, but I can't be bothered with that now. As Liu Yun spoke, he held the jade talisman in his hand and used Star Stealer again. Crack! Before Liu Yun's palm reached into the void, the jade talisman shattered. The blood-colored runes seeped into his palm and shimmered. The Zhang family's life-reversing spirit talisman can flip yin and yang and turn the universe on its head. Although it can't really change fate, it can invert the probability of my Star Stealer. It will allow me to steal the companion beast with the lowest probability, the ones that are almost impossible to steal. Although it doesn't mean that the chances of a mythical companion beast are the lowest, typically speaking, one only has one mythical companion beast. The chances are definitely not high. Therefore, the chances of stealing a mythical companion beast are definitely very high for me now. Liu Yun muttered to himself as he suddenly pulled out his hand. At the same time, he shouted, "Come, tyrant behemoth. I have a feeling that it's definitely you this time." Zhou Wen was given a fright when he heard Liu Yun's words. He was really afraid that tyrant behemoth would really be stolen. He focused his attention and circulated God's retreat. However, when Zhou Wen's companion beast tattoo trembled, his expression turned odd. The trembling tattoo was actually Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General. Ever since he had obtained the Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General, Zhou Wen had been very careful. He didn't dare release him easily, afraid that he would be affected by the Jinx's master skill. Previously, Zhou Wen still needed the Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General to restrain Xianxia. Now, with Tyrant Behemoth, there was no need for him. Zhou Wen had been in a dilemma on how to deal with it. He never expected Liu Yun to steal the Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General. Without any hesitation, Zhou Wen released the restrictions and got Liu Yun to steal the Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General. I can observe the effects of the Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General's Jinx's master skill on others. Will the Jinx's master skill only take effect when released? Zhou Wen thought to himself. "Come on, my tyrant behemoth." Liu Yun quickly pulled out his palm from the void. Liu Yun was overjoyed when he saw that it wasn't a musical note sprite that came out of his palm. However, upon careful inspection, it wasn't Tyrant Behemoth. Instead, it was a heavy armored warrior riding a tiger. He looked extremely ferocious and domineering, exuding an extraordinary aura. A humanoid companion beast. Its aura is so domineering and ferocious. Could it be a mythical companion beast? Liu Yun watched as the Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General transformed into a stream of light that landed on him. At the same time, some information surged into his mind. Unfortunately, Liu Yun didn't have the mysterious phone. He couldn't check the information regarding the Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General. All he could do was obtain some information from the Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General to gather some vague details. Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General, Epic. Liu Yun learned the name and level of the Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General. He could also sense the life providence and life soul a little, but it was limited to their names. He didn't know much about it. All he could do was wait until he summoned it out to test its various abilities in combat. I never expected that punk to have such a good life. Liu Yun had no choice. After much difficulty, he had only managed to steal one life-reversing spirit talisman from the Zhang family. Even the Zhang family didn't have many. It would be impossible to steal one from them again. Furthermore, it was too late. He only had 2 thefts left. He had once again used Star Stealer, but it was still a musical note sprite. This is the last time. God, Mother Mary, bless me. Let me steal a big one. Liu Yun prayed before using Star Stealer again. When a companion beast appeared in his palm, Liu Yun was delighted when he saw that it wasn't a musical note sprite. However, when he pulled it out, he realized that it was only an epic poison bat. He couldn't help but be greatly disappointed. It's really a huge loss. I wasted a wish and even used the life-reversing spirit talisman. I only managed to steal these crappy things. Liu Yun was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. He clearly knew that Zhou Wen had many mythical companion beasts, but he had only managed to steal trash. It was unacceptable. There was nothing he could do, even if he was indignant about it. He had expended a lot of energy this time, so it was impossible for him to use Star Stealer anytime soon. Forget it. Liu Yun got up and prepared to return. He had already made up his mind. He would pretend to lose his companion beast, and then accuse Zhou Wen of being a villain. It would be fine as long as Zhou Wen thought that the dimensional creatures nearby were fooling around. How unlucky. How can I only steal those crappy things? Liu Yun felt a little depressed. There was a small stone in front of him, so he kicked it. However, the stone remained motionless despite the kick. Liu Yun felt as though he had kicked a metal plate. He cried out in pain as he hugged his foot. With my foot's strength, even steel should be shattered. How can the stone remain motionless? Liu Yun felt that something was amiss. Before he could take a closer look at the stone, he saw the surrounding soil split open. The flowers and trees seemed to have been lifted up by something as they rose out of the soil. Liu Yun felt the ground beneath his feet rise as he hurriedly retreated. As he retreated, he saw a huge gray object burrow out of the ground. From its appearance, it looked like a huge horned beetle. Its body was the size of a truck. The small stone that Liu Yun had kicked was the tip of the horned beetle's horn. What's this? Liu Yun had seen many dimensional creatures that resembled horned beetles, but this was the first time he had seen such a huge one. Not only was this horned beetle huge, but its body was also like a gray stone. It looked odd, and there were many ancient and mysterious patterns on its back. The instant the horned beetle tore out of the ground, it charged at Liu Yun. Its speed was much faster than a real truck. It was like a fast-moving vehicle. Mythical creature. Liu Yun nearly cried out in surprise. Without any hesitation, he exerted his strength to leap up and dodge the attack of the horned beetle. However, when he exerted strength, he lost his footing. Not only did he fail to jump, but his legs sank in. Boom! The front end of the horned beetle had already slammed into Liu Yun. The powerful force blasted apart the surrounding soil and trees, forming a huge crater. It was like a meteorite hitting the ground. Holy SHT! Could this be the fiend armored tiger Soul General's Jinx's master skill? I didn't think it was that powerful when I had him with me. Zhou Wen wore a look of surprise when he saw this. He couldn't be certain that it was because of the fiend armored tiger Soul General, because Liu Yun hadn't summoned it. Chapter 629, Tears of Regret. Liu Yun grabbed the horn of the horned beetle with both hands and pushed upwards with all his might, but his body continued sinking. His arm was wrapped in a black bracer, and surprisingly wasn't shattered by the horned beetle's terrifying slam. It was just that the other parts of his body couldn't withstand the powerful shockwave. His armor shattered, and many parts of his body were injured. It didn't look like he was doing well. He actually managed to withstand such a terrifying collision. He only suffered some superficial injuries. This senior brother of mine does have some capabilities. He's not only good at stealing things. Zhou Wen watched Liu Yun and the horned beetle fight without any intention of helping. Liu Yun's muscles tensed up as he suffused a metallic luster. In the clash with the horned beetle, his body kept sinking. He didn't dare to release his grip and retreat. He was afraid that if he let go, the horned beetle's terrifying power would slam down like a crashing mountain, making it impossible for him to dodge. Genie had already flown up and spewed out flames to attack the horned beetle. However, the patterns on its back only shimmered as the flames failed to approach its body. Fat orange! Liu Yun gritted his teeth and shouted. The orange cat darted out of Liu Yun's body and ran in another direction. At the same time, it emitted a mysterious wave that could lure dimensional creatures to chase after it. The horned beetle was affected by the mysterious waves, reducing its downward pressure significantly. At the same time, it turned to look at Orange Cat. Liu Yun thought that he finally had a chance to escape. Just as he was about to retreat, the horned beetle glanced at the Orange Cat before choosing not to chase after Orange Cat. In a surprise turn of events, it quickly turned around and slammed the horn at Liu Yun. Holy SHT, what's going on? This dimensional creature isn't affected by Fat Orange. Liu Yun was alarmed as he raised his arms to meet the attack. Bam! 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 The horned beetle lashed out repeatedly as terrifying forces struck Liu Yun's arms. His body was like a wooden stake as he sank into the soil. Only his chest was exposed. Blood seeped out of Liu Yun's 7 orifices. Although the pair of bracers were magical and could withstand mythical strength, his body wasn't able to withstand such tremors. If this continued, all his bones and organs would be pulverized. If a tiger doesn't show its might, do you really think I'm a sick cat? A terrifying power erupted from Liu Yun's hands. A pair of black bracers crossed together, forming a black hole that looked like it was about to swallow the horned beetle. The horned beetle crashed into the black hole, but before the black hole could suck it in, the patterns on its body emitted a strange force that turned into a net to seal the black hole. The horned beetle's horn was inside the black hole, but its body was outside. It formed a stalemate with Liu Yun, with both parties unable to do anything to each other. Liu Yun hid some of his abilities while fighting me. This black hole-like ability should be the wheel of destiny ability of those bracers, right? Zhou Wen watched with relish. Such battles were rare to see. He approached the battlefield, hoping to get a better view. "Junior brother, quickly save me!" Liu Yun hurriedly cried out when he saw Zhou Wen. "Eldest senior brother, weren't you trying to steal my companion beasts?" Zhou Wen found a spot to sit down and asked Liu Yun with a smile. "Junior brother, how could I steal your companion beasts? You think too highly of me. How can I have that ability? My companion beast has also been lost. It must have been this horned beetle's doing. Quickly join forces with me and kill it. No matter what drops, it will belong to you," said Liu Yun. "It doesn't matter if you don't admit it. I'll wait here for the two of you to decide the victor," Zhou Wen said calmly. Liu Yun found it increasingly difficult to persist. He gritted his teeth and said, "Junior brother, it's all my fault. I just wanted to pull your leg. I didn't really want to steal your things. Otherwise, why would I only take a few of your musical note sprites?" Zhou Wen didn't expose him as he continued asking, "What's the name of the skill you used to steal my companion beasts? Where did you get it from?" "That's Star Stealer. It's an essence energy skill from an astral combat beast in the endless sea of stars," Liu Yun said gloomily. "Junior brother, what's the matter? Can we wait until we finish this first? What do you want to know? As your senior brother, I'll definitely tell you everything I know. Where's the endless sea of stars? What stage is the astral combat beast? How can I find it?" Zhou Wen ignored him and continued asking. "The endless sea of stars is actually a dimensional zone in the former Taklamakan Desert. I only saw it by accident, so I didn't dare venture deep into it. I don't know if there's anything else inside." "The astral combat beast is a mythical creature," Liu Yun answered. "Are you still lying to me?" Zhou Wen said with a cold expression. "Junior brother, I'm really not lying to you." The black hole in Liu Yun's hand was becoming weaker and weaker, as if it would collapse at any moment. "You said that astral combat beast is at the mythical stage, so Star Stealer is a mythical essence energy skill. How can an epic like you absorb a mythical essence energy skill crystal?" Zhou Wen said coldly. "Junior brother, you might not know, but the essence energy art I cultivate is called the Sky-Stealing Sun-Shifting Art. It's recorded on a stone monument in the endless sea of stars. It's because of the Sky-Stealing Sun-Shifting Art that I can absorb that mythical essence energy skill crystal. However, I can only absorb this type of mythical essence energy skill crystal. I've tried other types, but it's impossible. I'll die a terrible death if I've lied to you," Liu Yun swore. "Junior brother, I really can't take it anymore. Quickly save me." Liu Yun really couldn't hold on any longer. The black hole in his hand disappeared, and the horned beetle regained its freedom. It angrily slammed forward again. Boom! Liu Yun's hands were knocked apart. He looked exhausted and couldn't hold on any longer. Seeing the horned beetle slam its head down again, with Genie's flames useless against it, it seemed unstoppable. Orange Cat couldn't help much in battle. Liu Yun believed that he was doomed. Boom! Tyrant Behemoth descended from the sky and stepped on the horned beetle's back, shattering the stone shell on its back. Its hands clenched into fists as it repeatedly pounded the horned beetle's head. After a few punches, the horned beetle's head cracked. The final punch smashed through the horned beetle's head, sending fragments flying everywhere. Exhausted, Liu Yun hurriedly turned around and crawled out of the hole. Just as he crawled out, the horned beetle's broken horn shot over at a speed faster than a bullet, hitting Liu Yun's buttocks. Ah! A shrill scream pierced through the night sky of the town. Zhou Wen looked at Liu Yun, who was sprawled on the ground with tears of regret flowing out of his eyes. The horn was raised over him like a flag. He couldn't help but shiver. I've had the fiend armored tiger soul general for so long, but nothing major happened. I'm really lucky. I have to offer incense when I return. I have to thank all the deities for their blessings, Zhou Wen thought. Chapter 630. Unlucky Liu Yun. Eldest senior brother, are you dead? Zhou Wen walked to Liu Yun's side and asked. I have a cockroach's life. How can I die so easily? Ouch, junior brother, help me, pull that thing out. Liu Yun wanted to get up, but it immediately pulled his wound, causing him to cry out in pain. Typically, if one was injured by a weapon, one wouldn't randomly pull it out. One needed a professional doctor to carry out the procedure. However, an epic human's body and vitality far exceeded the average person, so they didn't worry too much. Zhou Wen extended his hand and directed a suction force across space, pulling out the broken horn. It made Liu Yun cry out in pain. Can you still walk? If you can walk, let's return to the town. Zhou Wen planned on asking Liu Yun about the endless sea of stars. No one would find a skill as useful as Star Stealer excessive. He also planned on making a trip to the endless sea of stars to see if he could find the tiny palm symbol. However, Zhou Wen had heard that many deserts were forbidden grounds for humans. The dimensional zones there were especially terrifying. If one wanted to enter the desert without a guide, one could easily be lost in one terrifying dimensional zone after another. Without Liu Yun leading the way, Zhou Wen guessed that it would be difficult for him to find the endless sea of stars in the desert. Yes, Liu Yun got up and limped in with an especially strange posture. After taking a few steps, he missed a step and vanished. All Zhou Wen could hear was a loud cry coming from below before a loud thud. Zhou Wen turned around and saw a hole in the spot where Liu Yun had been. He looked over and saw that it was originally a well. Due to the earlier battle, it had been covered by branches and soil. Liu Yun hadn't noticed it, and due to his injuries, he fell the moment he stepped on it. By the time Liu Yun climbed up, he was really in a sorry state. Coupled with his injuries, he looked even more miserable. Brother, help me up. I'm dying. Liu Yun stretched out his hand, looking exhausted. Walk by yourself. Zhou Wen immediately dodged far away. Who knew if Liu Yun would implicate others around him when he was being jinxed? Are you still human? I'm already so injured, yet you aren't giving me a hand. Liu Yun limped towards the town. Zhou Wen ignored him and walked towards the town square. Junior brother, be honest. Did you do something to me? I know I was wrong to steal your companion beast. I guarantee that there won't be a next time. Look at how miserable I am. Please spare me, Liu Yun said as he walked. He also felt that something was amiss with his situation. He had never been so unlucky. Don't spout nonsense. I definitely didn't do anything to you. Sometimes, it's a result of one's own doing. Even God can't sit idle, Zhou Wen said. Junior brother. Liu Yun wanted to say something, but a bird flew across the sky and pooped on his head. When Zhou Wen saw this scene, he immediately sped up and distanced himself from him to prevent himself from being implicated. From the looks of it, I can't randomly fuse the baby tiger. Otherwise, if I create another one that jinxes its master, I might harm myself, Zhou Wen thought. After returning to the square, Zhou Wen began studying the companion beasts ranked ahead of Tyrant Behemoth and prepared for the next challenge. It wasn't suitable to directly challenge first place, Primordial Immortal Sword. Neither was Death of the Underworld, who came in second. Furthermore, Death of the Underworld was a spirit. Zhou Wen didn't know if a pure strength type companion beast like Tyrant Behemoth could deal fatal damage to Death of the Underworld, so he didn't consider it for now. No matter how powerful Tyrant Behemoth was, he still had to consider the problem of something having an advantage over it. No matter how powerful a companion beast was, it couldn't defy common logic to fight a companion beast that had an advantage over it. Among the 12 companion beasts ranked ahead, some of them were from the 6 families, while the others were from overseas. Zhou Wen wasn't too sure either. If possible, Zhou Wen planned on challenging an overseas companion beast. Before Zhou Wen could come to a conclusion, he saw Liu Yun walk back. However, from the looks of it, he was in a worse state than before. His nose was bruised and his face swollen. Zhou Wen did not know what he had done. "Junior brother, I really know my mistake. Save me. If this continues, I will definitely die," Liu Yun said tearfully. He had never been so unlucky ever since he was born. The unlucky things he had encountered today numbered more than everything he had encountered in life. "Let me ask you, what's that life-reversing spirit talisman?" Zhou Wen asked Liu Yun. In the past, Zhou Wen had fused many pets, but had failed to get rid of Jinx's master. He failed to get rid of the pet, even with a fusion with single-digit probabilities. Back then, Zhou Wen suspected that fusion wouldn't fail as long as it had Jinx's master. However, it was useless even if he didn't fail. As long as Jinx's master existed, he definitely wouldn't dare use it. Liu Yun's miserable state strengthened his resolve. To have Liu Yun successfully steal the Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General was equivalent to the failure of Jinx's master. The life-reversing spirit talisman was indeed magical. "That's a treasure I stole from the Zhang family. I heard that it was passed down from the Zhang family's ancestors. There aren't many of them in total. I was lucky to have stolen one," said Liu Yun. "It was passed down by its ancestors. Isn't it something from a dimensional zone?" Zhou Wen was somewhat surprised. No, the Zhang family had a long history before the dimensional storms. Their family was already very famous in ancient times. They controlled a sect, and legend has it that they have the ability to predict the future. I'm not too sure about the details either. After all, this family is very mysterious. Otherwise, they wouldn't have produced a figure like the Hero King, explained Liu Yun. The Zhang family, could it be that ancestral master? Zhou Wen thought for a moment, and really thought of one such person. However, that was history from long ago. Zhou Wen didn't study history, and he had only heard of such a person. He wasn't sure of the exact details. "Junior brother, if you want the life-reversing spirit talisman, I'll go to the Zhang family later. I'll risk my life to steal another one for you. Help me dispel the bad luck on me first. Can you return the signed piece of paper to me?" Liu Yun believed that the reason he was so unlucky was that Zhou Wen had used the signed paper to do something to him after discovering that he had stolen his companion beasts. He had no idea that Zhou Wen hadn't used the signed paper at all. It was purely because of Jinx's master. "Return all the companion beasts you stole from me." Zhou Wen thought for a moment. He still wanted Liu Yun to take him to the endless sea of stars. If he were to continue being so unlucky, he probably wouldn't be able to reach the endless sea of stars before Liu Yun died. "If you want a companion beast, I'll think of a way to get a mythical companion egg for you." "There's no need for me to return them, right?" said Liu Yun with a bitter expression. Chapter 631, Being Chaptered. The companion beasts that Liu Yun stole were equivalent to companion beasts that he had hatched. To transfer them to someone else required paying a huge price. "I only want the things that belong to me. I don't want anything else. It's up to you." Zhou Wen wanted to take back the Fiend Armored Tiger Soul Essence and see if Liu Yun remained unlucky. If he wasn't unlucky anymore, then the previous mishaps were undoubtedly due to Jinx's master. Of course, Zhou Wen wouldn't let Liu Yun know where the problem stemmed from. It was fine as long as he mistakenly thought that it was due to his signature. This prevented him from doing anything rash in the future. I'll return them, all right. You're really my junior brother. You're going to kill me, Liu Yun said with a bitter expression. Those low-level musical note sprites are useless. Can't you give them up? No, not one less, Zhou Wen said. Liu Yun had no choice but to return the companion beasts he had stolen from Zhou Wen. Every time he transferred a companion beast, Liu Yun felt as though a chunk of meat had been ripped off his body. His expression turned uglier and paler. He was as white as a sheet. Zhou Wen was somewhat surprised. He originally didn't expect Liu Yun to really return all 10 companion beasts. After all, others might die from transferring a single companion beast. A few lives weren't even enough to transfer 10 companion beasts. Even Zhou Wen himself didn't dare casually transfer his companion beasts. Liu Yun forcefully transferred the 10 companion beasts. Although he ended up vomiting blood and falling to the ground, almost half dead, he didn't hurt his foundation. It was obvious that there was something strange about him. Otherwise, he would have long died. Could it be an effect of cultivating the sky-stealing sun-shifting art? Zhou Wen was even more expectant of the endless sea of stars. Typical dungeons didn't attract Zhou Wen much anymore, but he really wanted to visit places like the endless sea of stars. It would be great if he could download it on his phone. Junior brother, I've returned the companion beast to you. Quickly return me the autograph, Liu Yun said weakly as he lay on the ground. He was so weak that he didn't even have the strength to stand up. Senior brother, I'll keep your autograph. However, don't worry. As long as you don't have any more nasty thoughts, nothing will happen again. By the way, I want to go to the endless sea of stars to take a look. How long will it take for a return trip? Zhou Wen asked Liu Yun. It'll take at least a month or two. Liu Yun was depressed not to get the autograph back, but thankfully he didn't continue to be unlucky. He felt much better. Zhou Wen observed Liu Yun the entire time. Seeing that nothing had happened to him, he was certain that the things he had encountered previously were the problems caused by Jinx's master. If it really doesn't work, I'll use the fiend-armored tiger soul to Tyrant as food later. Zhou Wen wanted to wait and see if he would be affected by Jinx's master like Liu Yun. He felt that the possibility wasn't too high, because he had always taken the fiend-armored tiger soul general around with him. He wasn't as unlucky as Liu Yun. Furthermore, Zhou Wen had the bamboo blades of the 4 gentlemen blades. Legend had it that they jinxed their masters. Although his luck was lacking, he wasn't as unlucky as Liu Yun. If the fiend-armored tiger soul general really doesn't hinder me, can I use the advantage of never having a fusion fail to upgrade fiend-armored tiger soul general? Zhou Wen placed his sights on his mythical companion beasts. Mythical companion beasts had a low chance of success when fusing with ordinary pets, but if it fused with the fiend-armored tiger soul general, then a low compatibility didn't seem to be a problem. Zhou Wen only had such a thought, but he hadn't decided if he should carry out the fusion. This was because he didn't know why he wasn't affected by Jinx's master. If the fiend-armored tiger soul general advanced to the mythical stage and Jinx's master became strong enough to affect him, it wouldn't be worth it. He chatted with Liu Yun for a while. With Liu Yun not showing any more problems and Zhou Wen himself being fine, the two relaxed. According to Liu Yun, Zhou Wen knew that the endless sea of stars was deep in the Taklamakan desert. The area was chaotic, and there were many strange dimensional zones. Furthermore, the dimensional zones were mobile, meaning they weren't fixed. Finding the endless sea of stars was an extremely difficult task. Zhou Wen promised Liu Yun that as long as he could safely find the endless sea of stars and safely bring Zhou Wen out, he would return the autograph to him. The two of them reached an initial agreement. Just as they were discussing how to head to the endless sea of stars, the black cube suddenly lit up. A companion beast issued a challenge. A terrifying companion beast projection appeared on the cube's screen. At a glance, it looked like 8 dragons that were entangled together. On careful look, it was a terrifying snake with 8 heads and 8 tails. Its torso was connected together, but its heads looked like those of a dragon. However, its snake body didn't have any dragon claws. Orochi. Who is it challenging? Zhou Wen read out the monster's name when it appeared on the cube. Zhou Wen had heard of this mythical creature before. It was considered one of the more famous mythical creatures. It appeared in many myths. Soon, Zhou Wen realized that Tyrant Behemoth's name had lit up on the rankings. Orochi was challenging his Tyrant Behemoth. Instantly, the entire Federation boiled over. After Tyrant Behemoth killed Chimera with a decisive victory, to have another companion beast challenge it was unexpected. After all, Tyrant Behemoth was only ranked 13th, but according to analysis and speculation, its strength was ranked at least in the top 5. It was clearly not worth it to challenge Tyrant Behemoth. Now that someone was challenging it, it meant that it wasn't just for the ranking. They had either found Tyrant Behemoth's weakness or wanted to probe its true strength. No matter what the outcome was, this battle would undoubtedly be a spectacle. Furthermore, people were guessing whether Orochi, which had never been listed on the ranking, was from the Federation or overseas. The intelligence network of the 8 factions began their full machinery. They investigated the origins of Orochi, hoping to find its owner. However, the final conclusion was that the chances of it being an overseas companion beast were higher. On an island overseas, a youth was standing in front of a cube, staring intently at the screen. Why are you taking the risk to challenge Tyrant Behemoth? Your target should be Primordial Sword Immortal. Challenging Tyrant Behemoth will only expose the strength of Orochi ahead of time. A middle-aged man walked over and said with a frown. Chapter 632, Orochi. The youth stared at the screen and said, with the characteristics and skills of Orochi, it's still unknown if it can defeat Primordial Immortal Sword. After all, Primordial Immortal Sword can split apart death of the underworld's domain. Such destructive power happens to be the characteristics of Orochi. When companion beasts with the same characteristics meet, the stronger one will have an overwhelming advantage. You think Orochi is no match for Primordial Immortal Sword? The middle-aged man said unhappily. At the very least, I haven't seen the possibility of it winning yet. Rather than leaving the final moment to chance, I might as well occupy a spot first. I can advance and defend. Even if I fail to challenge Primordial Sword Immortal in the end, I can still occupy one of the top spots, the youth said. In that case, you should also challenge a companion beast ranked closer to the top. Tyrant Behemoth is only 13th, but its actual combat strength can be ranked in the top 5. The youth said with a smile. The competition for the top 10 will definitely be very intense towards the end. Even if I get Orochi to use all its strength to ascend to the top 5, not only will I expose all my strength, but I will still be challenged by the Federation in the end. Although Tyrant Behemoth is strong, from what I can see, Orochi should be able to restrain it. It won't be that difficult to win. Furthermore, Tyrant Behemoth's name has shaken the world. If I kill it now, others will view Orochi in a different light. When the time comes, I'll rush into the top 5. Those who dare challenge Orochi will have to think it through. How does their companion beast compare to Chimera or Tyrant Behemoth? You have the confidence to easily defeat Tyrant Behemoth, the middle-aged man asked after some thought. How can there be anything in this world with absolute certainty? However, during this period of time, I've repeatedly analyzed Tyrant Behemoth's battle as well as the Tyrant Behemoth found in myths and legends. Without a doubt, it is a pure strength type companion beast. You should know very well that Orochi has the absolute advantage over such companion beasts, the youth said. If that's the case, then go ahead and do it. It's also time for those fellows from the Federation to remember we exist. Let's just treat it as an early heads-up for them. With that, the middle-aged man stopped objecting. Zhou Wen didn't immediately accept the challenge. Instead, he went online to search for information related to Orochi. There was no available information regarding the dimensional creature, Orochi. There were only myths and legends. There were many legends regarding Orochi. The most famous legend was that Orochi was a monster from Outcloud Country. There were a few other legends, but they weren't as famous as this. Zhou Wen felt that the Orochi in the arena was similar to this legendary monster. Liu Yun's injuries hadn't healed yet, so he said as he leaned there, looking at the screen, "Junior brother, what are you hesitating for? Send your tyrant behemoth to kill that crappy snake. I don't plan on accepting the challenge. How's your injury? If there's nothing wrong with you, let's head to the endless sea of stars," Zhou Wen said. "You're giving up? Wouldn't that mean giving up your ranking?" Liu Yun said in surprise. "It doesn't matter. This ranking isn't my goal anyway." Zhou Wen looked at Liu Yun and said, "Can you walk or not?" "Yes. I have to walk even if it hurts. I have an uncomfortable feeling as long as that piece of paper is with you," said Liu Yun as he forced himself to get up. He summoned an epic companion beast that looked like a turtle, but it was bigger than an SUV. He sprawled on the turtle's back, which ran as though it had burning wheels at its feet. It was surprisingly fast and very stable. Zhou Wen didn't have any companion beasts that were especially suitable for riding. It was uncomfortable sitting on six-winged, so he chose to sit on the turtle's back as well. Zhou Wen didn't plan on letting Tyrant Behemoth participate in the battle, but the West District's media overwhelmingly supported Tyrant Behemoth, believing that it would definitely kill Orochi. How can an apocalyptic beast like Tyrant Behemoth be comparable to the likes of an overgrown snake? It won't take more than 3 minutes. Tyrant Behemoth will definitely defeat Orochi. I don't think Orochi can even last 3 minutes. The people in the West District believed that Tyrant Behemoth would win, but as the 72-hour countdown ticked by, they didn't see Tyrant Behemoth choosing to answer the call of battle. People began to sing to a different tune. There were even media reports that Tyrant Behemoth was no match for Orochi, which was why it didn't dare accept the challenge. Immediately, some media outlets objected. As a result, the major media outlets began arguing online. The West District citizens who supported Tyrant Behemoth began to split into 2 factions. In the end, after 72 hours, Tyrant Behemoth didn't choose to participate in the battle. This war of words ended with Tyrant Behemoth's supporters turning silent in dejection. Many people from the West District were very disappointed. They believed that Tyrant Behemoth shouldn't have been afraid of battle and should fight to the death to defend the glory of the West District. There were even rumors that pointed at the family clan of gods and the Cape family, believing that Tyrant Behemoth was a companion beast of their 2 families. It was a disgrace to the West District to surrender without fighting. The Cape family was the most wronged. Their chimera had been swallowed by Tyrant Behemoth, so how could Tyrant Behemoth belong to their family? However, ordinary citizens didn't know of this situation and included their family in their cussing. In the end, the Cape family couldn't withstand the pressure of public opinion. This greatly affected their reputation as a hero family. In the end, they took the initiative to meet the family clan of gods and decided to take down Orochi. In the beginning, they first sent an unknown mythical companion beast to challenge Orochi, hoping to figure out its true strength. However, it was easily defeated. Following that, the 2 families sent 3 mythical companion beasts to challenge Orochi, but all of them failed. They were defeated by Orochi with overwhelming strength. One of the losers was Inferno Dragon. It may have been a covetous probe at the beginning, but at this stage, the entire Federation knew that the 2 families were aiming to defeat Orochi. However, the repeated failures only served to further infuriate the West District media. They blamed the 2 families for their inaction. They should have sent stronger companion beasts to fight and defeat Orochi to defend West District's honor. There were even some people from the West District who wanted Tyrant Behemoth to fight again, to avenge their humiliation. Unfortunately, Tyrant Behemoth wasn't in the hands of the two West District families. Even if they wanted Tyrant Behemoth to fight, it was impossible. The two families had their own plans. It was impossible for them to engage in an all-out war with Orochi at the moment, but they couldn't ignore the reputation of the two families. Finally, the Cape family sent out an angel companion beast, hoping to defeat Orochi. Chapter 633, The Federation is Incompetent. War Angel was a mythical companion beast with golden wings. He wore golden armor and held a sword in one hand and a shield in the other. He was a companion beast with extremely powerful offensive and defensive abilities. Orochi quickly accepted the challenge and appeared in the arena. This battle attracted a large number of spectators. Because Orochi had won several consecutive battles and made Tyrant Behemoth retreat without a fight, it was placed in the limelight. It was so great that it was almost comparable to top companion beasts like Primordial Immortal Sword and Death of the Underworld. However, its ranking remained at 13. It didn't continue challenging upwards. The moment Orochi appeared, its 8 snake heads spewed out different powers: poison, flames, and smoke. Together with its mountainous form, it looked extremely terrifying. War Angel raised the golden shield in his hand and formed a barrier of light, blocking the many forces outside the barrier. The wings on his back flapped as he instantly came in front of Orochi. The golden sword in his hand slashed at one of the snake heads with a resplendent and holy sword beam. Clang! A snake tail slammed into War Angel's sword beam like a phantom. It shattered the sword beam and sent War Angel flying. In terms of strength, War Angel was clearly no match for Orochi. War Angel wasn't injured. He raised his shield and sword and constantly circled Orochi while attacking, but it didn't serve much purpose. Although his shield could block Orochi's attack, its sword beam was similarly unable to injure Orochi. Every strike was blocked, causing the battle to enter a stalemate. The West District citizens naturally hoped for War Angel to win. As for the other districts, they were just watching the fun. This was because no one could confirm that Orochi was a companion beast from overseas. As the battle continued, the golden wings on War Angel's back suddenly turned into golden feathers that spread out and condensed towards the golden sword. The golden sword turned into a huge golden feather sword that slashed at Orochi with unparalleled light. This strike was War Angel's Wheel of Destiny, known as the End of War. It possessed unparalleled destructive power. The Cape family hoped to use the End of War to defeat Orochi. Many people in the West District knew of the existence of War Angel. When they saw End of War, they were excited, imagining that War Angel was finally about to unleash its maximum strength. Even people who didn't know the might of End of War felt that this strike was invincible when they saw the golden sword beam that resembled divine punishment. Even if Orochi wasn't killed, it would be severely injured. However, in the next second, the West District citizens' fantasy was shattered. Orochi's tail struck the terrifying golden sword beam with a cold beam. The golden sword beam was sliced apart along with the feather blade. Even the shield was split in half. Thankfully, War Angel retreated quickly, or his body might have been split in half. At this stage, War Angel's owner didn't dare continue. He chose to admit defeat and leave the battlefield. If he continued fighting, he probably wouldn't even have the chance to admit defeat. The people from West District fell silent while the people from the other districts gloated. The angels in the West District are nothing much after all. They can't even defeat a snake. How embarrassing. The two hero families can't even deal with a snake. They were even beaten up so badly. Thankfully, Tyrant Behemoth was smart and didn't accept the challenge. Otherwise, it might have been sliced into two if it didn't escape as quickly as War Angel. As for the West District, they were in a frenzy. The internet was abuzz. There were people requesting Tyrant Behemoth to take the stage again, but there were also people who wanted the two families to send stronger companion beasts. Such a failure was intolerable. As for the pessimists of the West District, they believed that Orochi was invincible. The two families were in a difficult position, but to send a top-notch companion beast into battle now would only expose their strength and affect their plan to achieve first place. When Liu Yun and Zhou Wen arrived at a city closest to the desert, they saw the video of Orochi fighting War Angel. Liu Yun exclaimed, "What a powerful, destructive force! The tail of Orochi is like an invincible divine weapon. It can even shatter End of War. It's terrifying. It was right for you not to accept the challenge back then. This power is the nemesis of all pure strength type companion beasts." Zhou Wen said, "In myths, there's a divine sword in the tail of Orochi. It's an infallible weapon. That should be Orochi's most powerful trump card." After watching Orochi's battle, Zhou Wen felt more at ease. Orochi was indeed powerful, but it was impossible for it to defeat Tyrant Behemoth. The destructive power of Golden Overlord's sword was in no way inferior to Orochi. Its attack power was augmented by Golden Sword Aura, unstoppable and ever victorious. Yet, it could only injure Tyrant Behemoth when it didn't use absolute strength. Once it used absolute strength, the Golden Overlord sword's offensive power could only cause a faint sword mark on Tyrant Behemoth. Of course, that was under Zhou Wen's deliberate act. In fact, Tyrant Behemoth wouldn't even give Golden Overlord's sword a chance to hit it when it used absolute strength. Unfortunately, there were too many people in the city. Zhou Wen didn't wish to be too ostentatious, or he would have gotten Tyrant Behemoth to finish Orochi. The two of them left the city and continued heading towards the desert. Now, all Zhou Wen wanted was to quickly reach the endless sea of stars and see if he could download a game dungeon. While the two families in the West District were hesitating, Orochi, which had not challenged anything of a higher rank, made a move. It challenged fourth place, Ice Elemental Sprite Queen. It was a mythical companion beast that belonged to the Ultimate Family clan. It was currently in fourth place, only inferior to Primordial Sword Immortal, Death of the Underworld, and Fairy Immortal Gu. Legend had it that Fairy Immortal Gu was from the Dugu family, but up to now, no one had confirmed it. Ice Elemental Sprite Queen was proficient in ice power and could freeze everything. As for the Wheel of Destiny, Extreme Cold, legend had it that it was the power closest to absolute zero. Unfortunately, Orochi seemed to have very high resistance to ice. When the entire combat arena was frozen, it actually shattered the ice and slashed out with its tail, almost killing Ice Elemental Sprite Queen. The owner of Ice Elemental Sprite Queen had no choice but to admit defeat. However, after that, Orochi did something unimaginable. Orochi's 8 heads spewed out 8 different powers including ice, fire, and smoke at the same time, condensing 8 words in the void. The Federation is incompetent. The heroes are shameless. Instantly, the entire Federation erupted with rage. To say such words made it very obvious. Orochi was undoubtedly an overseas companion beast. This time, it wasn't just the West District. The entire Federation's 4 districts were filled with indignation. Chapter 634, Sandstorm. Now, well done. Since the Orochi has already revealed its strength, let's maximize its effects and expose the Federation more, the middle-aged man said to the young man standing beside Orochi. The youth turned around. She was wearing a samurai outfit and her hair was tied up. She looked like an ordinary woman without a calm or heroic aura. "You should call me by my full name, Yusugi now," Yusugi now said. The middle-aged man's expression stiffened slightly as he continued with a cold expression. "However, it's best you know your limits. It's fine to gather information, but Orochi must not be lost." "I naturally know what to do," Yusugi now said indifferently without looking at the middle-aged man. I hope you really know what should be done." The middle-aged man snorted and left. The entire Federation was discussing how to defeat Orochi and teach those demons overseas a lesson. They wanted them to know how powerful the Federation was. Now, the pressure wasn't only on the Cape family and the family clan of gods. The other families also felt the pressure. Xia Dongyu looked at the Xia family's analysis of Orochi and said, "Orochi has multiple attributes and has a high resistance to ice. Its strength is extremely strong. The most terrifying thing is its tail's destructive power. It can slice through almost everything. The owner of this, Orochi, is very smart, choosing Ice Elemental Sprite Queen that Orochi has a restraining effect on. This won them 4th place. While enjoying this high ranking, they prevent death of the underworld that is best at restraining Orochi from challenging it because of its higher ranking." Xia Xuanyu said, "To deal with a companion beast like Orochi, Brother Chuan's companion beast is most suitable. However, he went to the southern wilderness with Dugu Ji and Zhang Chunkyu. I'm afraid he won't be able to return anytime soon. No rush. Someone will be even more anxious than us." Xia Dongyu smiled. The person Xia Dongyu was referring to was naturally the Cape family and the family clan of gods. It meant nothing if they were defeated by other hero families. However, no one was more anxious than them when they were humiliated by the overseas demons. Zhou Wen and Liu Yun had already entered the desert. This place was even more terrifying than Zhou Wen imagined. Due to the influence of the dimensional storms, the difference between day and night temperatures became even greater. The temperature in the day was nearly 80–90 degrees C. It was almost enough to roast a human. Yet, it was literally freezing at night. Furthermore, terrifying sandstorms often appeared. According to Liu Yun, the desert's terrain would change with each sandstorm. Dimensional zones would even appear after the change. It was very likely that they would find themselves in a dimensional zone after a sandstorm. "Don't worry. With me around, I can avoid danger in the desert. I won't lose my way, nor will I end up inside a dimensional zone because of the sandstorm." Liu Yun's injuries were almost healed. He sat on the turtle's back and introduced the desert to Zhou Wen. Although the desert temperature couldn't damage Zhou Wen's body, he felt somewhat uncomfortable. Even with an umbrella shielding him, he still felt extremely hot. The weather in the desert changed without warning. It was burning under the scorching sun a moment ago, and in the next second, black clouds appeared in the sky. In just a moment, they covered half the sky. The sun was covered up, and the sky darkened. "Oh no, it's a sandstorm. Why are we encountering a sandstorm here?" Liu Yun's expression changed. "Didn't you say that you wouldn't enter a dimensional zone even if you encountered a sandstorm?" Zhou Wen asked Liu Yun. After the dimensional storms, sandstorms became especially terrifying. However, the power of the sandstorm wasn't enough to threaten the safety of epic experts. What they were most afraid of was the sandstorm sweeping up dimensional zones and causing them to find themselves inside one. Under normal circumstances, there shouldn't be any problems. Liu Yun clearly didn't sound confident. Although Zhou Wen could tell that Liu Yun lacked confidence, there was nothing he could do since he had already come so far. The black sandstorm arrived in the blink of an eye. The terrifying storm had caught up to them and swept them into a swath of black sand that blotted out the sky. Liu Yun summoned a wind elemental companion beast and transformed into a windmill. It stood on the turtle's head. Strangely, the terrifying sandstorm blew at the windmill, causing it to spin faster and faster. However, the sand around them seemed to be absorbed by the windmill, preventing it from affecting the two people on the turtle's back. In the sandstorm, nothing could be seen. Even Truth Listener was affected, reducing its range. "Did you hear anything?" Zhou Wen suddenly asked Liu Yun 1 hour into the turtle's journey in the sandstorm. "No, did you hear anything?" Liu Yun immediately became nervous. He pricked up his ears to listen, but he couldn't hear anything. I seem to hear a woman crying, but I can't hear it clearly, Zhou Wen said to Liu Yun as he listened attentively. A woman crying. Listen carefully. Are you sure that's right? Liu Yun's expression turned ugly. Zhou Wen focused his attention and continued listening, but he couldn't seem to hear the woman's cries. After listening for a while, he didn't hear the same sound again. I knew it. You must have heard wrongly. Liu Yun heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Zhou Wen shake his head. The terrifying sandstorm blew for more than 10 hours. By the time the sandstorm passed, it was already the morning of the next day. The sun had just risen, and the temperature wasn't too high yet. The surrounding air seemed to have improved significantly, and there was a moist smell. See, I told you that with me around, you can freely enter the desert. It's impossible for you to enter a dimensional zone, said Liu Yun smugly. As Liu Yun spoke, he stood up and looked into the distance. His expression suddenly froze. Zhou Wen knew that something was amiss and stood up. He traced Liu Yun's gaze and saw an ancient city appear in the desert ahead. The ancient city was made of a yellow jade-like stone. It shimmered under the sunlight like the morning sun. The architectural style of the ancient city was very strange. It was different from the ancient cities in Zhou Wen's hometown. The city gates and roofs used large numbers of arches. Zhou Wen narrowed his eyes and carefully sized it up. He saw that above the city gates were the words Netherworld City. This name didn't sound auspicious. Zhou Wen turned to look at Liu Yun and asked, "Do we need to pass by Netherworld City to reach the endless sea of stars?" However, Liu Yun didn't answer Zhou Wen. As though he had gone mad, he ordered the turtle to change directions and run at full speed. However, not long after running, they saw the ancient city that resembled yellow jade appear in front of them. On it were the words Netherworld City. It looked like the ancient city they had just seen. What's going on? Zhou Wen sized up Netherworld City, but his eyes suddenly lit up. This was because he saw a tiny symbol beside the words, a tiny palm symbol. Chapter 635, Netherworld City. Death Valley, Netherworld City, the endless sea of stars and Paradise Mountain. These are the 4 most terrifying dimensional zones that appeared after the transformation of the Taklamakan Desert. If humans enter, it's highly likely that they won't be able to survive, said Liu Yun. Then why are you taking me to the endless sea of stars? Zhou Wen frowned. I've entered the endless sea of stars before, and I know how to leave. As long as I don't venture too deep, there won't be any danger. However, I've only heard of Netherworld City and have never seen it before. I heard from the people in the desert that Netherworld City can only be seen at certain times. Many people might not even see it once in their entire lives in the desert, but who knew that it would be such a coincidence for us to encounter it? Is the thing you planted on me still there? Liu Yun asked Zhou Wen suspiciously. Do I look like an idiot? I wouldn't want to die with you, right? Zhou Wen curled his lips. Liu Yun thought that it made sense. If they entered the desert together, Zhou Wen wouldn't be able to escape the same fate if he died from encountering Netherworld City. What kind of place is Netherworld City? Zhou Wen asked. I don't know. I've only heard that none of the people who have seen Netherworld City can return alive. I didn't believe it in the past, but this city is indeed strange. I've already changed directions, and it's impossible I backtracked, yet here we are, seeing it again. Liu Yun's expression didn't look too good. Since we can't shake it off, let's head over and take a look. As Zhou Wen spoke, he jumped off the turtle's back. After adhering the substitute talisman to himself, he summoned 6-winged guardian dragon and allowed it to appear on his back in its companion form. He wore Truth Listener the entire time. He directly summoned Tyrant Behemoth and made it scout ahead. Liu Yun knew that they couldn't hide from Netherworld City after encountering it, so he decided to take a look first. He summoned Genie and Orange Cat. He wore the pair of bracers and summoned a few epic companion beasts. After summoning, he saw that Zhou Wen was still summoning companion beasts. Not only did he summon the golden overlord sword, but he also had a golden battle god halberd floating beside him. "Junior brother, don't tell me you're in the same industry as me." Liu Yun looked at Zhou Wen's mythical companion beasts and felt like he had wasted all his years. He used to think that he was doing pretty well. Among his peers, even the geniuses of the 6 families might not have as many mythical companion beasts as he did. However, compared to Zhou Wen, he immediately felt like he was a country bumpkin. Zhou Wen ignored him and summoned some Vajra malas that served as cannon fodder. Due to the intense sunlight here, the poison bat's combat strength would be greatly weakened, so Zhou Wen didn't use them. A few Vajra malas scouted ahead. Zhou Wen and Liu Yun followed behind as they headed for Netherworld City. Netherworld City's huge doors were tightly shut. The doors were carved from yellow jade. On each of the 2 doors, there was a tiny ghost image which looked very sinister. When they arrived in front of the city gate, nothing happened. While Liu Yun sized up the city gate, Zhou Wen took out his phone and snapped a picture of the tiny palm symbol beside the words Netherworld City. The palm of the tiny palm symbol didn't hold the symbol of Netherworld City, but a ring. He did not know what it meant. After taking a picture on his phone, Zhou Wen immediately entered the download interface, making him feel a lot more at ease. As long as he could download the map, he could explore the secret of Netherworld City in-game. No matter how strange it was, there was no need to be afraid. With the combat strength of Zhou Wen's current companion beast lineup, he should be able to clear anything unless he encountered an unreasonable existence like the Thirch. Before he could finish downloading the map, he suddenly heard a strange voice coming from the gates of Netherworld City. "Welcome to Netherworld City." Zhou Wen looked in the direction of the voice and saw that it came from the 2 ghost faces on the door. The 2 ghost faces revealed a strange smile as they stared at Zhou Wen and Liu Yun. Liu Yun and Zhou Wen looked warily at the 2 ghost faces on the door, not daring to act rashly. Before entering the city, there are 3 ironclad rules you must not violate. "Take heed," the ghost face on the left said. "First, murderers in Netherworld City will die," the ghost face on the right said with a smile. "Second, anyone whose 2 feet leave the ground will die," the ghost face on the left said. "Third, kill 1 person for every day you are inside the city, or you will have to commit suicide," the ghost face on the right said. "Welcome to the city." The 2 ghost faces said the last sentence in unison as the door to Netherworld City opened. What kind of bullshit ironclad rules are those? The first rule clearly states that we are not allowed to kill. The third rule says that we have to kill 1 person a day. "It's completely bullshit," said Liu Yun. However, the 2 ghost faces had already closed their eyes as though they were asleep. They ignored Liu Yun. Zhou Wen looked at Netherworld City, but the city was blinding. He couldn't see anything. Truth Listener's ability couldn't hear any sound in Netherworld City. Zhou Wen did not know what force had affected it. "Let's not enter the city now." Zhou Wen planned on entering the city in-game after the map was downloaded. However, Zhou Wen soon realized that it wasn't up to them whether they entered the city. A raging fire burned outside the city, as though the entire desert had turned into burning hell. The Vajra malas beside them were immediately burned to ashes when they touched the flames. It was the same for one of Liu Yun's epic pets. When it touched a spark, it immediately burned and was reduced to ashes in the blink of an eye. Seeing the flames rapidly reach the city gates, it was obvious that they were forced to enter the city. They didn't have any other choice. If they didn't wish to die in the sea of flames, they could only enter the city. "Let's enter the city now." Liu Yun saw that the fire was about to reach his feet. Genie, who was a fire elemental companion beast, was helpless against the flames. All he could do was shout and charge into the city gates. Zhou Wen could only follow by carefully charging into the city. At the instant they passed through the city gates, They realized that the companion beasts they summoned had automatically returned to their bodies, turning into tattoos. It was a little different from what they had imagined. The city wasn't hell, but a seemingly normal street. There were all sorts of strange buildings on both sides of the street. Strangely, there were humanoid creatures standing on the streets. There were only a few of them. As far as their eyes could see, there were about 20 to 30 people on the long street. However, those people were very strange. All of them stood motionless, as though their feet had been nailed to the ground. Chapter 636, Strange Street. Chapter 636, Strange Street. Zhou Wen attempted to summon six-winged guardian dragon, but he couldn't. It was as though he was restrained by some kind of nomological force. The few companion beasts he had summoned previously had already automatically turned back into tattoos. He couldn't summon any of them. Only Truth Listener remained in its earring form and wasn't sealed. "Can you summon your companion beasts?" Zhou Wen asked Liu Yun. "No, none of my companion beasts can be summoned." Liu Yun shook his head with a heavy expression. Without companion beasts, he and Zhou Wen were only at the epic stage. It would be difficult to resolve many matters. Liu Yun took 2 steps as he spoke, hoping to see if he could use any essence energy skills. However, after taking a step, he realized something strange happening beneath his feet. He immediately stopped. Zhou Wen also looked at the stone slab beneath Liu Yun's feet. At a glance, the entire street was filled with such stone slabs. Every stone slab was uniform, about 40 centimeters wide by 60 centimeters long. At the end of the stone path was a stone staircase. At the end of the stone steps was a strange building that looked similar to a memorial stele. Just now, when Liu Yun took a step, the stone slab he stepped on lit up immediately, emitting a faint light. It made the originally grayish-blue stone slab become crystalline like jade. And on the stone slab, a faint light condensed into a number, 364. "Do you feel anything wrong with your body?" Zhou Wen asked Liu Yun. Liu Yun shook his head. "Apart from not being able to summon companion beasts, there aren't any other problems. I'll take another step." With that said, Liu Yun took another step. With that step, Liu Yun's foot stepped onto the stone slab beside him. After his foot lifted off the stone slab, the light immediately vanished. The stone slab he was stepping on now suffused a faint glow as numbers appeared on it. However, it wasn't 364 this time, but 363. From the looks of it, the number should decrease by 1 with every tile. "But what does this number mean?" Liu Yun frowned. "I have a very bad feeling about this. Those people are standing motionless on the streets. The stone slabs beneath their feet are also glowing. I believe it's not that they don't want to move, but they don't dare to because of the numbers," Zhou Wen said as he took a step forward. He wanted to verify his guess. The city gates had already closed. Zhou Wen took a step and walked to the stone slab in front of him. Indeed, the stone slab lit up as numbers appeared. It was 365. "That's not fair. Why was my number 364 when I took a step?" "Yet you're 1 step ahead of me," said Liu Yun. Zhou Wen ignored him and took another step back. The stone slab beneath his feet lit up as the numbers turned into 364. "I reckon that no matter where we go now, the number will decrease by 1. The ghost face said that both our feet can't leave the ground, or we will be killed. In other words, it's impossible for us to fly over. We can only walk across the stone path." Zhou Wen glanced at the people ahead and said, "Do you think the numbers on the stone slab represent our remaining steps? If they're used up, maybe something very bad will happen." "From the looks of it, it's indeed very possible." Liu Yun agreed with Zhou Wen's view. After some thought, he said, "What will happen if we stay here forever?" "I don't know, but I believe the dimensional creatures in this city wouldn't make us stand here forever," Zhou Wen answered very quickly. Everything in Netherworld City was too strange, so he couldn't guess what would happen next. The two of them stood there, looking at each other. Neither of them dared to move. Just standing here won't do. Why don't we go over and ask the people in front of us and see what's going on here? Liu Yun said to Zhou Wen. All right, you can go over and ask them, Zhou Wen answered. Liu Yun wanted Zhou Wen to go, but he had made it clear that he wanted him to do it. Therefore, neither of them moved. Zhou Wen wasn't idle. He tried summoning his companion beasts, one by one, to see if there were any other companion beasts that responded to his summoning other than Truth Listener. In such a place, having an additional companion beast meant an additional chance of survival. Torch Dragon, no response. Golden Overlord Sword, no response. Fiend Armored Tiger Soul General, no response. Demonic Neonate. Zhou Wen was delighted. Demonic Neonate had actually given him a response. He could sense Demonic Neonate's consciousness, and she was waiting for his summoning. Demonic Neonate can be summoned. Zhou Wen didn't summon her. He wanted to determine the situation first. He tried all the companion beasts, but only Truth Listener and Demonic Neonate responded to him. There was nothing from Tyrant Behemoth. After attempting to summon all his companion beasts, Zhou Wen began switching his essence energy arts, hoping to see if his life providences and life souls were useful here. Life providences and life souls were normal and weren't affected. Apart from not being able to summon companion beasts, everything else was the same as usual. When Zhou Wen switched to the Tao Sutra, the Jade Infant actually opened his eyes. A treasure glow emitted from his body as a terrifying taboo power seeped into his body like a mighty river. In just a few seconds, the Jade Infant was nearly blasted apart by the terrifying taboo power. Zhou Wen was so frightened that he hurriedly deactivated God's retreat. What a terrifying taboo power! For that split instant, Zhou Wen felt the connection with his companion beast again. Unfortunately, it was impossible for God's retreat to last for a long period of time. It was basically impossible to use such a short period of time for combat. The taboo power of Netherworld City is even more terrifying than the taboo power on Jade Emperor Peak. It's no wonder no one from Netherworld City can return. I'm afraid it's a near-death situation this time. Zhou Wen pondered. However, there was too little useful information at the moment. He had no idea how he could leave Netherworld City. Liu Yun opened his mouth and shouted. He wanted to catch the attention of the people on the street. Liu Yun's voice was very loud. With his volume, even if he stood outside the city, one should be able to hear him. However, the people on the streets didn't seem to hear his voice at all. They ignored them and continued about their own business. Stop shouting. They probably can't hear you, Zhou Wen said. How do you know they can't hear? Liu Yun asked. Didn't you notice? We've been standing here for so long. Have you heard any sound on this street? Zhou Wen pointed at the long street. Liu Yun was slightly taken aback, as he realized that the street was indeed a little strange. Apart from his and Zhou Wen's voices, there wasn't a single sound. Although most people on the streets didn't move, there were also some people moving around. They could even see them opening their mouths to speak, but they couldn't hear a single sound. The entire street seemed to have been set to silent mode. Chapter 637, Reason of Death. That's not right. If Netherworld City is really muted, why are we able to hear each other's voices? Could it be that it's not forbidden for sound to spread, but that sound can only be transmitted within a certain range? Liu Yun thought for a moment before saying. From the looks of it, the possibility is very high. In other words, we have to walk over to communicate with those people, Zhou Wen said as he looked at the people on the street. That's crazy. The person closest to us is 163 stone slabs away from us. Even if sound can be transmitted within a certain range, meaning that we don't have to walk right up to him, we still have to take at least 100 steps. Liu Yun counted the stone slabs on the street. Let's try walking. Even if we stand here without moving, the third rule might still kill us, Zhou Wen said. What a bullshit ironclad rule. If the ironclad rule is really effective, wouldn't we die without a doubt? Killing people means death. Even if we don't kill people, we will die. I think there must be something wrong with the 3 rules, said Liu Yun. Murderers will die. If people aren't killed in a day, one can only commit suicide. What method is there to satisfy these 2 conditions at the same time without having to die? Zhou Wen frowned in thought. Liu Yun looked at Zhou Wen and said, I have an idea. If I push you out now, and your number drops to 0, you might die because of me. It can be said that I killed you, but I didn't personally kill you. Does this count as fulfilling 2 conditions at the same time? That's one way to look at it. Zhou Wen nodded slightly. However, Liu Yun shook his head and said, this method is useless. Even if I kill you, I'll only live 1 more day. The cost is not proportional to the rewards. Now, our understanding of Netherworld City is limited. Let's head over and ask the people ahead. Perhaps we can obtain some useful information, Zhou Wen said as he prepared to walk forward. Don't walk yet. Let's think of a way. Perhaps we can come up with a way to resolve the problem. For example, you can carry me on your back. That way, we might only need to expend 1 person's steps, shouted Liu Yun. If I carry you, won't your feet leave the ground? Zhou Wen asked. I'm just giving an example. There might be other methods, said Liu Yun. Then take your time to think about it. Tell me when you think of it. Zhou Wen probed as he walked forward. On the same stone slab, no matter how he moved, the number wouldn't change. However, as long as he moved to the stone slab beside him, the number would change. If he crossed 2 stone slabs with 1 step, the number would decrease by 2. You are already walking. What's the point of me telling you? Liu Yun gritted his teeth and followed. The 2 of them watched as the number on the stone slabs kept decreasing. They were also extremely nervous. No one knew what would happen after the number dropped to 0. As Zhou Wen walked, he looked at his phone. Netherworld City was still downloading, but it hadn't finished. This was because he didn't know when the game could be downloaded. If the download took more than a day, Zhou Wen might just be waiting for death if he didn't do anything. Therefore, Zhou Wen decided to do his best with what he had. If his phone didn't work, he might still have a chance of survival. After walking on about 7 or 8 stone slabs, Zhou Wen suddenly had a bad feeling the moment he stepped onto the next slab. It was as though something was different. This time, not only did the stone slab show a number, but there were also words. Cause of death, death by blades. Zhou Wen stood motionless as his body tensed up, ready to release his strength at any moment. Liu Yun also felt that something was amiss. He stopped in front of Zhou Wen and asked him, what happened? Before Zhou Wen could answer, he heard a bang. Not far in front of him, a warrior wrapped in armor appeared with a blade in hand. After appearing, he slashed at Zhou Wen without a word. The black saber beam instantly appeared in front of him, as fast as an illusion. Clang! Zhou Wen drew his bamboo blade and slashed at the black-armored warrior. The black-armored warrior's strength was much weaker than Zhou Wen's. He was sent flying, but he wasn't injured. Zhou Wen could tell that he was an epic dimensional creature, not a human. Zhou Wen couldn't move, but the black-armored warrior didn't have such restrictions. He rapidly moved and slashed from all directions, hoping to slay Zhou Wen by his blade. Zhou Wen brandished his saber in response to the battle, but he could only stand where he was. All this while, Zhou Wen had focused on practicing his movement techniques. But now he couldn't move at all. He was a little unused to it. However, his realm, reaction, consciousness, and technique remained ever present. It wasn't difficult for him to block the black-armored warrior's attacks. Liu Yun was too close to Zhou Wen, and was also affected by the black-armored warrior. The black-armored warrior even slashed at him. Liu Yun could only take 2 steps back to prevent himself from being injured in the battle. However, with his retreat, his number also decreased. He couldn't help but feel depressed. It's clearly a stone slab that I've already reached, but the number still gets reduced when I return to it. Damn it! Liu Yun cursed inwardly. However, when he saw Zhou Wen being constantly attacked by the black-armored warrior, he gloated in delight. Junior brother, your saber techniques aren't bad. If you could move, 10 black-armored warriors wouldn't even make you break a sweat. What a pity. Even if I can't move, killing him isn't difficult. However, if I kill him, it's impossible to predict what will happen next, Zhou Wen said. Liu Yun nodded when he heard that. This black-armored warrior should be considered one of the top existences at the epic stage. His movement techniques and saber techniques are very powerful. His strength is slightly lacking, but he's first-rate. The first appearance might be at the epic stage, but if the second one is at the mythical stage, we would definitely die considering how we can't use our companion beasts or move as we please. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm thinking if this black-armored warrior is considered a human. If I kill him, wouldn't that breach the first rule? Zhou Wen added. After Liu Yun heard that, his expression turned serious. If he's considered a human, then we really don't have a way out. Killing him means death. If we don't kill him, we'll be constantly attacked. Once our stamina is exhausted, we'll die. After a moment of silence, Liu Yun continued. I don't think that he comes under the ironclad rules. Otherwise, there's no way for us to live. From the looks of it, Netherworld City doesn't plan on giving us a way out, Zhou Wen said coldly. Zhou Wen's mind raced. The black-armored warrior definitely had to be killed. It was impossible for him to continue fighting him like this. However, he couldn't kill him casually. He needed to be prepared. The black-armored warrior appeared behind Zhou Wen like a ghost. He was already very close to him, but Zhou Wen suddenly turned around and slashed out with his bamboo blade. Before the black-armored warrior's saber could land, his saber had already sliced the black-armored warrior in half. Chapter 638, Horror. Are you all right? Liu Yun looked at Zhou Wen nervously. He was really worried that Zhou Wen would die. If Zhou Wen were to die just like that, he would likely suffer the same fate. He naturally didn't wish for Zhou Wen to die. I'm fine. Zhou Wen sheathed his bamboo blade and shook his head. At the instant, he struck out to kill the black-armored warrior. Zhou Wen switched to God's retreat before killing it. The Jade Infant absorbed a large amount of taboo power and nearly exploded. However, it was about the same as before. There were no abnormal fluctuations. From the looks of it, killing the black-armored warrior wasn't considered murder. Of course, this was only Zhou Wen's guess. Perhaps the taboo power fluctuations from murder wasn't obvious. Zhou Wen looked down at the black-armored warrior's corpse. His corpse was rapidly disintegrating as a crystal dropped. It was an essence energy skill crystal. Zhou Wen extended his palm and sucked it over. The crystal reached Zhou Wen's hand, and he used his phone to snap a picture. It was indeed an epic essence energy skill crystal. Blade Executioner Crystal, Epic. With the Blade Executioner dead, the words on the stone slab beneath Zhou Wen's feet vanished. Do you still want to continue walking? If we encounter a mythical creature, we will probably be doomed, said Liu Yun with a heavy expression. Zhou Wen knew that it was a viable possibility. He wouldn't believe that there were no mythical creatures in such a strange dimensional zone. He looked at his phone. The game was still downloading, and there wasn't any indication of the progress. He didn't know when it would finish downloading. Let's continue, Zhou Wen said as he bit his lip. A day was very short. If they couldn't untie the dead not caused by the 3 ironclad rules, they would probably die. Thankfully, Zhou Wen still had Truth Listener and Demonic Neonate to use. Even if he encountered mythical creatures, he wasn't powerless against them. However, Zhou Wen was still somewhat worried. He didn't know if companion beasts would be affected by the ironclad rules of Netherworld City. If they were affected as well, they would die if they weren't summoned with their feet touching the ground. That would be tragic. But now that things had come to this, he had to fight for his survival. All he could do was walk forward. "Junior brother, go ahead. I'll follow behind you. Since you wish to scout the way, I can help you from behind if you encounter danger," said Liu Yun. There was nothing wrong with what Liu Yun said. Furthermore, Zhou Wen hadn't pinned his hopes on him at all, so he continued walking forward. However, this time, Zhou Wen walked even slower and was even more careful. Liu Yun waited for Zhou Wen to take a few steps before stepping on the same stone slabs he took to prevent any accidents from happening. The only thing that worried Liu Yun was if the black armored warrior that Zhou Wen had killed would appear when he stepped onto the same stone slab. Although he was worried, Liu Yun was still prepared to take the same path. He wanted to see if the black armored warrior would appear again. That would give him a better idea for the remaining journey. However, before Liu Yun reached the black armored warrior's stone slab, something went wrong. He stepped on a stone slab that Zhou Wen had stepped on before. The stone slab lit up as a few words appeared. "Cause of death, horror. FCK, what the hell is this? You clearly stepped on it just now. Wasn't it fine?" Liu Yun tightened his nerves and looked around. He didn't know what horror was. The slab that Zhou Wen had stepped on previously clearly wrote "Death by Blades." Zhou Wen turned his head and saw the words beneath Liu Yun's feet. He said with a heavy expression, "From the looks of it, the problematic stone slabs aren't in fixed spots. They randomly appear or someone is controlling them. Even if there's a pattern, we don't know what it is. Junior brother, I think it's best if we don't meet again in the future. Before meeting you, I lived a happy life. However, ever since I met you, I haven't had a good day. I might even lose my life here. Promise me, if we can survive this time, we won't meet again, all right?" Liu Yun said with a bitter face. "When you take me to the endless sea of stars, we won't meet again," Zhou Wen said. "You still want to go to the endless sea of stars when we are already in this situation? Ah." As Liu Yun spoke, he suddenly felt a chill run down his neck. A dagger seemed to have appeared out of thin air and stuck to his neck. The blade had already touched his skin. Liu Yun turned pale with fright, but his reaction was really fast. Almost at the same time the blade appeared, he quickly leaned back, but his feet seemed to be nailed to the ground. He remained motionless. The dagger slashed across Liu Yun's face, slicing off a portion of his hair. Liu Yun broke out into a cold sweat. However, the dagger vanished after the slash. If not for the fact that half of Liu Yun's hair had been cut off, and there was a faint bloody mark on his neck, he would have thought that it was just an illusion. Liu Yun listened attentively, but he couldn't hear the sound of the dagger at all. There was no wind in the air. This is indeed horrifying. I would rather meet the black armored warrior. Liu Yun felt depressed, but he focused his mind and didn't dare relax. Suddenly, the dagger appeared at Liu Yun's waist and stabbed at his waist. Liu Yun immediately dodged to the side. His clothes were pierced, but he still managed to dodge. Zhou Wen watched from the side as the dagger constantly appeared. It was like a ghost whose trajectory he couldn't figure out. Every time it appeared, it was as though it had teleported. When it vanished, Truth Listener couldn't hear its location. Liu Yun's skills were extraordinary. He managed to dodge the various attacks of the dagger time and time again. His body made all sorts of unimaginable poses. At most, he would lift one foot from the ground, never two at the same time. There were certain poses that even a professional acrobat might not be able to do. "Senior brother, your movement technique is pretty good. Where did you learn it?" Zhou Wen asked with a smile. "You're still gloating at me despite the situation. Hurry up and help me think of a way to deal with this fellow," Liu Yun said gloomily. "Since you have the ability to dodge, find an opportunity to slash it. Perhaps you can slice it apart with one strike, Zhou Wen said. You make it sound simple. How would I know that I would enter such a crappy place? I usually use companion beasts, so I don't have any ordinary weapons, said Liu Yun. You should have said so earlier. I have a weapon. I can rent it out to you, Zhou Wen said with a smile. Cut the crap. Give it to me quickly. Liu Yun dodged the dagger's attack and shouted at Zhou Wen. How much will you be paying for rent? Zhou Wen said in a relaxed manner when he saw that he wasn't in much danger. You can charge however much you want. Junior brother, can't you be a little more humane in times like this? Liu Yun felt like crying. Tell me first, what movement technique is that? Zhou Wen was especially interested in movement techniques. Liu Yun's movement technique wasn't as fast as Zhou Wen's, but his body could make all sorts of strange poses. It was something that ordinary humans couldn't accomplish. It was definitely a special essence energy skill. Chapter 639, Fire Burning. This is a combination of contortion, movement technique, and bone contraction. It's not a simple essence energy skill. If you want to learn it, I'll teach you slowly later, said Liu Yun anxiously. Give me the blade quickly. Take it. Zhou Wen took out his orchid blade and threw it at Liu Yun. Liu Yun caught the orchid blade. As he waited for the dagger to appear again with full concentration, he said, What kind of blade is this? Can it be used? Don't worry. It's very sharp. It's not inferior to the one in my hand. Zhou Wen didn't tell him that it was the Four Gentlemen Blade's orchid blade, lest he scare him. He didn't dare to lend him the bamboo blade either. He was afraid that he would end up with even more bad luck and attract more trouble. Clang! The dagger appeared behind Liu Yun. He leaned forward and twisted his body at the same time. With a backswing of his hand, he slashed at the dagger. The dagger was sliced open by the orchid blade and disappeared as it flew out. The dagger clearly didn't give up on killing Liu Yun. It continued to appear, but it was struck by the orchid blade in Liu Yun's hand. After slashing more than 10 times in a row, he forcefully snapped the dagger. Zhou Wen saw that he had managed to slash at the same spot every time. His technique was excellent, and he wasn't someone to be underestimated. The dagger landed on the ground and quickly disintegrated, leaving behind a dimensional crystal. It looked like it had added stats. This blade isn't bad. In any case, you still have a big one. Let me borrow the small one for a while. I'll return it to you when we get out. You can name any conditions you want. Liu Yun didn't have any weapons on hand, which made him uneasy. He wanted to use Zhou Wen's orchid blade for the time being. Take it if you want to use it. Just follow the conditions we agreed on. There's no need for any additional conditions, Zhou Wen said. Seeing how straightforward Zhou Wen was, Liu Yun suddenly felt that something was amiss. From the way he knew Zhou Wen, he definitely wasn't someone who was easy to negotiate with. There must be a problem. Liu Yun carefully sized up the orchid blade in his hand. After looking at it for a while, his expression suddenly changed. This can't be the orchid blade of the Four Baneful Blades, right? As expected of my senior brother. You are knowledgeable, Zhou Wen said with a thumbs up. It's no wonder we are so unlucky when you're carrying such a thing on you. I was fine coming to the desert so many times in the past, but something happened the moment you came. So it's because of this evil thing. You really aren't afraid of death. Wait, Liu Yun said in an extremely foul manner as though he had suddenly thought of something. He looked at the bamboo blade at Zhou Wen's waist and said with widened eyes, That's not the bamboo blade of the Four Baneful Blades, right? Are the things you have genuine? What do you think? Zhou Wen asked with a smile. Liu Yun nearly jumped up, but when he thought about how he would die if his feet left the ground, he stopped himself. He pointed at Zhou Wen and said with a trembling voice, You really have no concept of death. Just having any one of the plum, orchid, Bamboo and chrysanthemum blades will lead to a terrible death. FCKU. To think you have two. Do you really have a death wish? It's fine if you're tired of living, but don't drag me with you. With that said, Liu Yun was about to throw the orchid blade at Zhou Wen. He didn't want to hold such an item for even a minute. He had already deeply experienced how terrifying it was to be unlucky. Senior brother, you have to consider carefully. Without this orchid blade, you would be dead right now, Zhou Wen said. Liu Yun was taken aback, as his expression turned complicated. Although Orchid Blade was infamous, if he didn't have any weapons now, the chances of survival were too low. Junior brother, I really have to take my hat off to you. Couldn't you have brought some normal weapons? Why have you brought such deadly things? You really have a death wish, Liu Yun said gloomily, but he still held the Orchid Blade and didn't throw it at Zhou Wen. Cut the crap. Tell me how you mastered that movement technique, Zhou Wen said. Liu Yun told Zhou Wen the various essence energy skills he needed for his movement technique, before saying, "This thing of mine is mainly used when stealing. In terms of speed and exquisiteness, it's inferior to your movement technique. Why are you learning it? Do you want to be a thief? I'm just interested." Zhou Wen didn't believe that Liu Yun's movement technique was as useless as he had said. His strange movement technique allowed him to adapt to various environments. In the future, when Zhou Wen entered dimensional zones to fight, it would be impossible for every dimensional zone to have enough space for him to use his full range of movement techniques. If he were in some narrow and rugged area, Liu Yun's movement techniques would be especially useful. After silently memorizing Liu Yun's movement technique methodology, Liu Yun said from behind, "What do we do now? Do we still need to continue moving forward? There's no way out. All we can do is walk forward," Zhou Wen said as he continued. Liu Yun knew that scouting was useless, so he didn't plan on waiting for Zhou Wen to scout ahead. He walked over and leveled up with him. When Liu Yun passed the stone slab that the black armored warrior had appeared in, he didn't activate it. It looked like the problematic stone slabs were purely random. After taking a few steps, a stone slab lit up again, and new words appeared. Cause of death, fire burning. How many ways of death are there in Netherworld City? Zhou Wen focused his attention on his surroundings as he pushed Truth Listener's ability to its limit. However, the range Truth Listener could hear only had a radius of 10 stone slabs. Everything beyond was silent, as though it was muted. Zhou Wen could roughly tell that this was the maximum area they could hear sounds. Boom! With a loud thunderclap, a strange dimensional creature appeared by Zhou Wen's side. It looked like a crocodile, but it stood there with its hind legs on the ground. It raised its front claws, and its tail played a supporting role. However, due to its short limbs, its body was fat and short. It looked a little adorable and wasn't very tall. It only reached Zhou Wen's waist. Just as Zhou Wen was sizing it up, it opened its mouth and spat out a flame that surged at him. The flames weren't ordinary red-yellow in color, nor were they blue in color. Instead, they were white flames that looked like burning ice mist. Zhou Wen didn't dare be careless. He drew his saber and slashed out a demonic astral wheel. The blood-red wheel of light tore out like a saw as it slashed at the strange flames. The demonic astral wheel's destructive power was indeed very strong. It spun and sliced through the white flames, but the deeper it went, the slower the demonic astral wheel spun. It only managed to slice through less than a meter before completely stopping, as though it had been frozen. In the next second, the demonic astral wheel shattered amid the white flames, turning into countless fragments. The fragments rapidly burned, causing the white flames to become even more ferocious as they enveloped Zhou Wen. Chapter 640, Death Knell. At this moment, Zhou Wen felt that the techniques he had been practicing recently were mainly movement techniques. Now that he couldn't move, he lacked the means to defeat his enemy. "I've had too little time. I don't have the time to learn so many skills." Zhou Wen's time was indeed limited. Others only needed to advance one life soul, but he needed to advance 4. Furthermore, his training time would be about a year. To be able to train his movement technique to epitome standards, his progression speed was terrifying. However, at the critical moment, disasters didn't give Zhou Wen the time to cultivate. Just as the white flames were about to shoot at him, Zhou Wen didn't slash out again with bamboo blade. Instead, he used demonic astral wheel's suction and struck out with his palm. Using the spinning power, he diverted the white flames to the side. Despite that, the rotation of the demonic astral wheel gradually slowed down in the white flames. A few seconds later, the spinning force wasn't enough to divert the white flames. All Zhou Wen could do was deliver another demonic astral wheel. Zhou Wen sheathed the bamboo blade and constantly struck out demonic astral wheel with both hands, diverting the white flames that spewed at him to the side. Therefore, a magical scene happened. The monster spewed out flames that resembled white fire snakes, but they were diverted to the side by Zhou Wen's demonic astral wheel. It bloomed like flaming chrysanthemums that filled the sky. "Junior brother duck!" At this moment, Liu Yun suddenly shouted. Without any hesitation, Zhou Wen crouched down and lowered his head. He saw a needle like cold beam fly over his head. The monster's attention was on Zhou Wen, so it shifted its gaze downwards as he ducked. It wasn't prepared for the cold beam of light, as it instantly nailed into its eyes. The monster immediately let out a tragic cry. Zhou Wen took the opportunity to draw his saber and slash out. The demonic astral wheel spun and beheaded the screaming monster. On careful look, Orchid Blade had penetrated the monster's eyes. "Thanks." Zhou Wen extended his hand and sucked the Orchid Blade back before throwing it at Liu Yun again. "I won't be able to live for long if you're dead. 2 people are better than 1. I'm doing this for myself. Instead, I'm more concerned about you. You expended so much essence energy just now. It's best you recover your essence energy before continuing," said Liu Yun. Although Zhou Wen didn't really need Liu Yun's help, he would provide him significant help in escaping Netherworld City, since Liu Yun had expressed his goodwill and was willing to work together with him to face the problem. "If you don't have essence energy crystals, I can sell them to you. How about 10 epic essence energy crystals for your movement technique?" Liu Yun had some ideas about Zhou Wen's movement techniques. His movement technique was already fast enough. Few people at his level could catch up to him, but Zhou Wen's movement technique was even faster than his. He also wanted to know how Zhou Wen had mastered it. "Don't you think 10 crystals is a tad too little?" Zhou Wen said with a smile. "You have to know that we are in a dire situation. No one knows when we will be able to leave, nor do we know how many battles we will have to go through. The present value of essence energy crystal is 10 times or even 100 times what it usually is. It's very possible that an essence energy crystal might save us at the end. If you can use another skill, you might be able to survive." "Do you still think it's expensive?" Liu Yun said seriously. "It's still expensive. Even if an essence energy crystal is worth 100 times more, do you think it can be exchanged for a divine movement technique?" Zhou Wen asked. "What? Your movement technique is at the divine level?" Liu Yun was shocked. "As real as it gets. If you really want to know how it's done, it's best you show some sincerity and help me obtain Star Stealer," Zhou Wen said. "Does the method need mythical skill crystals?" Liu Yun asked. "There's no need. All the skills are at the epic and legendary stage. There's no need for mythical skill crystals," Zhou Wen answered. "You comprehended a divine skill yourself." Liu Yun was even more surprised. Zhou Wen's mythical companion beasts could be explained away by him being rich. There might be a faction or massive resources backing him. However, comprehending a divine skill wasn't something that could be accomplished with just resources. Although resources were one of the most important conditions, what really mattered was one's perceptivity. Teacher's eyes are really sharp. A random student he takes in has such standards. Unfortunately, in such a place, your divine movement technique is useless, said Liu Yun with a sigh. Let's continue walking. We don't know how long a netherworld city day is. Perhaps we don't have as much time as we imagined, Zhou Wen said as he continued walking forward. Liu Yun quickly chased after him, clearly wanting to cooperate with Zhou Wen. After taking a few steps, Liu Yun also encountered dimensional creatures. This time, the dimensional creatures they encountered were the blade executioners they had previously seen. The cause of death was naturally death by blades. Liu Yun had seen Zhou Wen kill the blade executioner, so he already had some understanding of it. He didn't spend much effort to kill the blade executioner. The two of them walked forward together. There were 4 types of dimensional creatures they often encountered: blade executioners who delivered death by blade, flaming evil spirits who used fire burning, flash spirit flying blade who inculcated horror, and water demon who used drown. They were all epic dimensional creatures with their own characteristics. However, with Zhou Wen and Liu Yun's cooperation, they killed them one by one, allowing them to smoothly walk over the stone slabs. With every step the two of them took, Liu Yun would shout at the person ahead, hoping to see if he could hear him. Zhou Wen naturally knew that it was useless. Unless they came within 10 stone slabs of each other, the other party definitely couldn't hear their voices. Zhou Wen did some calculations. They needed 153 steps to reach a distance of 10 stone slabs from the person. That would leave them with slightly over 200 steps. This was only enough for them to speak to each other. It was unknown how many steps it would take to leave Netherworld City. The two of them took 120 steps and could already see that the person closest to them was very close. Just as they were about to continue advancing, they suddenly heard a bell chime clang. The sudden ringing of the bell gave the two of them a fright. The sound was coming from a building at the end of the stone steps. There was a brass bell hanging on it that emitted the heart-shuddering sound. Clang, clang, clang. The bell constantly rang. Zhou Wen had never heard such a strange bell chime. He felt that it wasn't auspicious. What crappy bell is this? Why does it sound like a death knell? Liu Yun blurted out. Death knell? Zhou Wen was immediately taken aback. After Liu Yun said it, he thought about it carefully and was stunned. The two of them exchanged looks and saw the unease in each other's eyes. The bell rang 7 times before it finally stopped. In front of the building, a throne made of yellow jade slowly rose. There was a person sitting on the throne. Chapter 641, Bone Die. The person was wearing armor carved from white bones. On his head was a skull-like mask. His eyes were shimmering with a strange red light as he casually sat on the yellow jade throne. His gaze was sizing up the people on the long street below. He didn't look like he was looking at humans, but more like beasts such as pigs or dogs. He supported his face with one hand and tilted his head to look at them. Meanwhile, the people on the street below were all ghastly pale. Their bodies involuntarily trembled as though something extremely terrifying was about to happen. Who is that guy? Why is he so cocky? Liu Yun whispered. The person, far away above the stone steps, seemed to have heard Liu Yun's words. Looking at him from afar, Liu Yun's scalp immediately went numb and cold sweat broke out on his back. Fortunately, that person only glanced at him and didn't pay much attention to him. Zhou Wen noticed that in front of the person was a bowl made of a skull. Unfortunately, he didn't know what was inside. Truth Listener's ability had been restricted. He couldn't sense that far away. Just as Zhou Wen was pondering over it, the person extended a hand and took some things from the bowl, clamping them between his fingers. Only then did Zhou Wen see that they were dice, 6 of them. Each one was crystalline like jade, but they looked more like the bones of some creature. The dice didn't look too special. Just like ordinary dice, there were numbers from 1 to 6 engraved on each of the 6 sides. The colors were red, like blood. When the person picked up the dice, Zhou Wen and Liu Yun were alarmed because the stone slab beneath their feet lit up. However, the stone slabs were extremely bright this time. A blood-colored number actually appeared on it. The number under Zhou Wen's feet was 19, and the number under Liu Yun's feet was 18. Neither of them knew what this number represented. However, Zhou Wen soon realized what the numbers meant. This was because blood-colored numbers lit up beneath the feet of the people in front of him. Everyone's numbers were different. From 1 to 33, this meant that there were a total of 33 people on the long street. These numbers were their serial numbers. Zhou Wen had already figured out what would happen next. That high and mighty fellow would definitely throw the dice. If the number he threw was the same as the number under someone's feet, that person would definitely be in for a rough time. From the reactions of the people in front of him, he knew that they must have experienced the same thing, which was why they appeared to be so afraid. I wonder what will happen if the points under our feet match the points he throws out. Liu Yun also noticed something and swallowed his saliva. I don't know, but I'm certain that nothing good can come out of it. As Zhou Wen spoke, the person waved his hand and threw the dice out. Zhou Wen originally imagined that he would throw the dice into the bowl, but to his surprise, the person threw the dice down. 6 dice landed on the stone steps and rolled along. Amazingly, the 6 dice grew in size as they rolled. When they landed on the long street, they were more than a meter long. 6 huge rolling dice rumbled down the long street at an extremely fast speed. Wherever they passed, the people in front would dodge to the side, not daring to come into contact with the die. They looked extremely afraid. What should we do? Liu Yun looked at the dice that were rolling. 2 of the huge dice were likely to pass through the spot they were standing. If they wanted to dodge, they needed to move at least 3 stone slabs. Let's dodge it first. Zhou Wen didn't know what the dice were, so he decided to avoid them. He would wait until he figured out the situation when he went further forward. 6 dice rolled past them amidst rumbling, and their step counter was reduced by 4 steps. Clang! The dice rolled all the way to the entrance and slammed into it. Then, they bounced back and landed in the open space inside the door. After rolling for a while, they stopped. 1 2, 3 3s, 1 6, and 1 5, a total score of 22. Zhou Wen and Liu Yun's eyes immediately looked at the street in front of them. The person with the red number, 22, at his feet was around the middle of the long street. He looked like an extremely muscular, middle-aged man. He was tall and mighty, and his muscles looked like steel. Everyone on the long street looked at him, and his face instantly turned pale. He looked extremely horrified as he shouted crazily, but unfortunately, his voice couldn't be heard. All they could see was his mouth open, but no one knew what he was shouting. As he shouted, he ran crazily. However, no matter which stone slab he ran to, the stone slab would light up with the blood-red 22. Boom! Without any warning, the middle-aged man's body exploded like a split watermelon. Blood flowed everywhere. However, the blood very quickly seeped into the cracks on the stone slabs, leaving not a single drop. It was as though the stone-slabbed ground could suck blood. The man on the throne spread his fingers, and the 6 huge dice flew back into the air, shrinking amidst their flight. By the time they reached his hand, they had returned to their original size. Holding the dice in his hand, the person looked coldly at the people on the long street. The throne slowly descended and eventually disappeared. That bastard! What does he treat us as? His toys. Liu Yun gritted his teeth. From the looks of it, there's nothing wrong with that. Zhou Wen stared at the building on the stone steps. There was no longer a throne or man there. After watching for a while, Zhou Wen said, "That fellow should be the most terrifying dimensional creature in Netherworld City. If we can kill him, we might have a chance of escaping." How do we kill him? The rules of Netherworld City are set by him. We are just chess pieces on the board. How can we play chess with the chess player? Liu Yun said with a bitter expression. That depends on whether he abides by the rules or not. If he abides by the rules, we still have a chance of defeating him even if he's a chess player, Zhou Wen said. What if he doesn't follow the rules? Liu Yun asked. Then we will have to think of a way to avoid the rules. Zhou Wen looked at the person closest to them. There was still a look of horror on the person's face. From the looks of it, he had been frightened by the scene. Let's go and ask them what's going on here, Zhou Wen said as he continued walking forward. They weren't too far from that person. After killing a few epic dimensional creatures, they finally arrived within 10 steps of that person. Chapter 642, Chu He. The person's hair was already gray, and he looked to be in his 50s or 60s. He was thin. Although there were many wrinkles on his face, his chiseled edges were still there. It was obvious that he had been a handsome man when he was young. When the old man was looking at the dice, he saw Zhou Wen and Liu Yun. He also knew that they were walking over, but he didn't seem to have the desire to communicate with them. All he did was stand there dejectedly. How should I address you? Liu Yun asked. When the old man heard the voice, it was as if he had just woken up. He subconsciously answered, My name is Chu He. I'm a professor at Imperial Capital College's History Department. Peasant. Is your wife called Noon One? Liu Yun joked. It's not that. It's Chu He as in the Chu River. The old man didn't have any sense of humor. In such an environment, there was nothing that could make him laugh. Therefore, the old man explained seriously. Zhou Wen's eyes widened when he heard the elder's words. He asked in disbelief, Chu He, how many professors in the Imperial Capital College's History Department are named Chu He? I'm the only one. Chu He seemed somewhat numb. He didn't care why Zhou Wen would ask such a strange question. Zhou Wen looked at Chu He excitedly. In the entire Imperial Capital College, Zhou Wen only knew of one person named Chu He. The reason Zhou Wen could remember this name wasn't because Chu He was famous. No matter how famous Chu He was in his field, Zhou Wen couldn't care less, much less remember his name. However, this Chu He was different. This was because there was a history professor at Imperial Capital College. He was a member of the former principal's expedition team. Zhou Wen had seen Chu He's name and information on the list, and he had also seen the picture of the expedition team. However, Zhou Wen had only had a general look back then. Chu He wasn't his target, so he didn't pay much attention to him. Now that he thought about it, this Chu He was indeed somewhat similar to the Chu He in the photo. However, the Chu He in the photo was slightly plumper. He wasn't this thin, and he looked better. He had a ruddy face and black hair. He wasn't as pale as he was now. Back then, Chu He was in high spirits. Is he really Professor Chu He from the expedition team? Shouldn't he have entered the Zhualu battlefield with the former principal and company? They went missing together, so how could he be here? Zhou Wen believed that the former principal had been killed, but for a person who had likely been killed with the former principal to appear in Netherworld City made him feel alarmed again. Could it be that Netherworld City is really the place where humans come to after death? Could it be that the people in this city aren't living humans, but dead ghosts? Then what about Liu Yun and me? Could it be that we are already dead without even realizing it? Did our souls enter Netherworld City? Zhou Wen shook his head and threw this ridiculous thought out of his mind. Professor Chu, have you been to the Zhualu battlefield for research? Zhou Wen asked as he stared at Chu He. He hoped that Chu He was Professor Chu He from the expedition team. If they were really the same person, it was very likely that the former principal hadn't been killed if Professor Chu He was still alive. After all, he hadn't found the former principal's corpse in Zhualu, nor had he discovered any other relics. Ever since he was young, there hadn't been many people who had treated Zhou Wen well. The former principal was one of them. Zhou Wen felt that a good person like the former principal shouldn't have died so early. At the very least, he didn't wish for the former principal to die so early. No, Chu, he shook his head. How can that be? Think about it carefully. The Federation invited you to participate in the expedition team to Zhuolu. You, Professor Aoyang Ting, and a few other experts and professors went to Zhuolu together, Zhou Wen said. After speaking for a while, Chu He's thoughts seemed to become more active. After hearing Zhou Wen's words, he lowered his head and thought for a moment before saying, I remember. There was such an incident. Back then, an organization under the Federation did invite me to Zhuolu to carry out research work. I remember that there was an old professor, Aoyang Ting, on the list. If you went to Zhuolu with them, why are you here alone? Zhou Wen asked in excitement. He had already taken a look at the others on the street, but he hadn't discovered the former principal or the other members of the expedition team. To his surprise, Chu He shook his head and said, No, no, no. I didn't go to Zhuolu. I had a major discovery at that time and wanted to do research in the Taklamakan Desert, so I rejected the invitation and didn't go to Zhuolu. You rejected the invitation? Zhou Wen looked at Chu He with disbelief. He had read the information on the Zhuolu expedition team. Although there was no more information after they went missing, the records were still very detailed. There were even their punch card records when they were at the encampment. Many people in the encampment had seen Professor Chu He before. Some had even chatted with him. Now, Chu He had actually said that he hadn't gone to Zhuolu and had rejected the invitation from the beginning. This made many thoughts flash through Zhou Wen's mind. Is this Chu He lying? Or did he really not go to Zhuolu? If he really didn't go to Zhuolu, then who's the Chu He in Zhuolu? Is this Chu He fake? Or is the expedition team's Chu He fake? Or is it the same person? Did the soul enter Netherworld City after Chu He died, and he has already forgotten the past? That's not right. He still remembers his name, and knows that he's a professor at Imperial Capital College. It doesn't look like his memories have been washed away. Zhou Wen's mind was in a mess. He couldn't figure out what was going on. Yes, I rejected it, Chu He said bitterly. I was in a dilemma back then. If I had chosen to go to Zhuolu, I wouldn't have been trapped in this place that's akin to hell. Zhou Wen thought to himself, if you had gone to Zhuolu back then, your outcome might not have been better than now. At the very least, you're still alive. I'm not even sure if the former principal and company are dead or not. Junior brother, let's chat about all of that later. We don't have much time left. Ask the important questions, said Liu Yun anxiously. Zhou Wen nodded and asked, Professor Chu, how did you enter Netherworld City? What's the situation here? Chu He said, back then, I was studying the ruins of the Nia civilization in the desert. Who knew that I would encounter a sandstorm? After the sandstorm passed, I saw Netherworld City. Then, there was a huge fire around me. I had no choice but to escape into Netherworld City. The experience of Chu He and Zhou Wen's entering Netherworld City was similar. However, Zhou Wen thought of another important problem. Chapter 643, Torture Chambers. Professor Chu, when did you enter Netherworld City? Zhou Wen asked directly. If this Chu, he was really Professor Chu He from Imperial Capital College, then the Professor Chu He who went to Zhuolu was likely a fake. However, since the imposter hadn't been discovered, this meant that Professor Chu He must have come to the desert a long time ago. That was why no one had seen him again. Otherwise, the imposter would have been discovered long ago. In that case, Professor Chu He should have entered Netherworld City a while ago. Otherwise, he would definitely have made contact with the outside world. Someone outside should know that he was in the desert, and not Zhuolu. However, the truth was that no one knew of such a situation. Even Chu He's family believed that he was in Zhuolu. This was extremely odd. If someone hadn't deliberately cut off the connection between Professor Chu He and the outside world, it would have been because he had entered Netherworld City a long time ago. That was why no one knew he was here. However, with the 3 ironclad rules of Netherworld City, how did Professor Chu he survive? When Professor Chu he looked at him strangely and said, "Just today. Didn't you come in today when you encountered a sandstorm? Today? Didn't you contact your family before you came in?" Zhou Wen asked in disbelief. "There's no signal in the desert. How can I contact my family? It was only about a couple of weeks ago. I went to the city outside the desert to contact my family once. At that time, I was very excited to tell them that I had made a huge discovery and that I would be back soon to reunite with them. I never expected." Chu He's face was filled with sorrow. This left Zhou Wen completely dumbfounded. Chu he had contacted his family a couple of weeks ago, so why hadn't his family mentioned this matter? His family had never mentioned that Chu he had gone to the Taklamakan. Now, Zhou Wen wished he could return immediately and ask Chu He's family what was going on. From Zhou Wen's point of view, this wasn't a coincidence. To Professor Chu, he's had appeared in different places. There had to be someone pulling the strings from behind. Who's doing these things? If the Zhualu expedition team's Chu he is fake, what did the fake Chu he want to do by joining the expedition team? Could the former principal's disappearance have something to do with him? With this in mind, Zhou Wen's mind became active. If someone really abducted the former principal away, the former principal might still be alive. Liu Yun was somewhat anxious. Zhou Wen kept asking questions that weren't pertinent. All he could do was ask himself, "Professor Chu, you came earlier than us. Do you know what's going on here? What exactly is that dimensional creature that appeared up there?" "That's City Lord Netherworld. The bronze bell hanging there will ring every hour. It's the same as the wall clock at home. When the bell rings 7 times, he will appear and cast the dice to take a life." Chu he said with a trembling body. "Wait, you said that it rings 7 times a day. Doesn't that mean you have been here for more than a day?" Zhou Wen discovered the problem in Chu He's words. Chu he said with a bitter smile, "I heard it from others. As you saw, City Lord Netherworld really appeared and even took a life. Perhaps it will be my turn tomorrow. However, my worries are unnecessary. I don't even know if I can survive today. Why should I be worried about tomorrow?" Liu Yun was immediately disappointed. He originally imagined that he would find someone who knew what was happening and obtain some information about Netherworld City. But to his surprise, Chu he had entered Netherworld City the same day as them, albeit a little earlier than them. Taking a closer look at Chu He's feet, he realized that he still had 132 steps left. That was even fewer than Zhou Wen and company. "Professor Chu, have you learned anything about Netherworld City and City Lord Netherworld?" Liu Yun continued asking unwillingly. Liu Yun was surprised when he realized that Chu he knew much more than he had imagined. According to what Chu he had heard, the 3 ironclad rules of Netherworld City could not be violated. Otherwise, one would immediately die. Furthermore, the distance between the stone slabs was a number. Be it advancing or retreating, or moving left and right repeatedly, it was part of the count. Once the number dropped to 0, it meant death. Chu he saw a person self-destruct because of the number turning 0. It was identical to how the middle-aged man who had died just moments ago. It was said that there was only one way to leave Netherworld City alive. That was to walk to the end of the long street and step onto the stone steps to reach the Netherworld Divine Throne. Only by sounding the bronze bell on it can one leave Netherworld City. That's impossible. From here to the stone steps, there are at least 2,000 to 3,000 stone slabs. With just the few steps allocated to us, we can't even reach the stone steps, much less walk up the stone steps and strike the bell," Liu Yun said with a frown. "It's not impossible to increase the number of steps. Every new hour, the doors on both sides of the long street open. When the time comes, we have a chance to obtain more steps," Chu he said as he pointed at the tightly shut doors. "Are the shops selling steps?" What do we use to buy them? Is it money or dimensional crystals? Liu Yun asked as he sized up the shops on both sides of the street. No, those aren't shops, but torture chambers. You can be punished in the torture chamber in exchange for the number of steps. The punishment in each torture chamber is different. You can obtain different steps from different punishments. As he spoke, his eyes revealed fear. Zhou Wen and Liu Yun were dumbfounded when they heard that. According to He, there were various kinds of punishments in the torture chambers. Getting branded by a piece of red-hot metal on the chest until the flesh scorched could exchange for 5 steps. Having needles stab, the 10 fingers could be exchanged for 10 steps. Having a piece of flesh taken with a blade could obtain 1 step. Although these sorts of punishments wouldn't kill, it left one shuddering in fear. In that case, as long as we can endure the pain, we can obtain enough steps to walk up the stone steps, said Liu Yun. That's not entirely the case. Every punishment only gives steps the first time, He said. Zhou Wen immediately counted the number of torture chambers on both sides of the street. According to the information he had obtained from He, one could obtain about 10 steps from each torture chamber. 239 torture chambers. If we can obtain 10 steps from each torture chamber, we can obtain more than 2,000 steps. With so many steps, can we walk up the stone steps? Zhou Wen estimated that it was about there, but this was only an estimate. It wasn't necessarily accurate. Junior brother, we seem to have made a mistake. Liu Yun's expression turned nasty as he thought of the same problem as Zhou Wen. Steps were scarce. One had to visit all the torture chambers once before they could ascend and reach the netherworld divine throne. However, as they walked all the way, they had already missed many torture chambers. If they walked back now, it would be a waste of many steps, making their already small number of steps even fewer. Chapter 644, Punishment. If we continue like this, I'm afraid we won't have enough steps to reach the netherworld divine throne. If we backtrack, the number of steps we take will also decrease, said Liu Yun. Zhou Wen shook his head and said, even if we start with the first torture chamber, I'm afraid we won't be able to reach the netherworld divine throne. Why? Will there not be enough steps? Liu Yun was puzzled. I don't know if the number of steps is enough. However, I do know that in the short span of a day, suffering 239 types of punishments might be nothing to our bodies individually, but can we take a total of 239 punishments? I doubt I can. Among the people I know, I'm afraid only one person can complete this street and survive all the punishments. Unfortunately, he's not here, Zhou Wen said. Although it's very difficult, we still have to give it a try. We can't just sit back and wait for death, right? Liu Yun said. Then give it a try later, Zhou Wen said as he pointed at the shop beside him. As you wish. Liu Yun also knew that at this stage he had to try his best. Otherwise, there was no way out. Do you want to go back first? Liu Yun looked at the path they had taken, but he quickly rejected it. I'll first try entering the torture chamber beside me. There was still some time before the next hourly bell. The two of them could only stand there and wait. Zhou Wen took out his phone to take a look, but he still hadn't finished downloading it. The dungeon map was clearly very big. Zhou Wen took the opportunity to cultivate God's retreat. Every time he summoned it, he would switch it away when it was about to explode. After repeated cultivation, the jade infant's body became more transparent. Soon, it became as transparent as crystal. Zhou Wen vaguely felt that the jade infant was about to break through. I wonder what a life soul's perfect body would be like. Zhou Wen placed all his hopes on the jade infant. God's retreat wasn't enough to resist the taboo power here. If it could advance to a perfect body, they might still have a chance of survival. As for entering the punishment chamber to receive punishment, Zhou Wen didn't pin much hope on it. His physique was already very strong, but he might not be able to withstand so many punishments in such a short period of time. Unless Lai Xuan was here, Zhou Wen didn't even wish to give it a try. An hour quickly passed. While the Jade infant rested, Zhou Wen chatted with Chu He and deliberately asked about his past. Chu He was already reeling in horror after being trapped here. Being able to chat with others was also a way to relieve stress. He said a lot. Chu He remembered everything that had happened in the past very clearly. It didn't look like there was a problem with him, nor was there any memory loss. Clang, clang, clang. The bell rang again. This time, the bell rang 8 times. After the bell stopped, the torture chambers that had been closed on both sides of the street opened their doors. Zhou Wen looked at the torture chamber beside him and saw that there was a strange torture device inside. It looked like a wooden horse, and on its back was a long spike that resembled a unicorn's horn. However, it wasn't growing on its head but on its back. Beside the torture equipment was a sign with the words "Wooden Horse Punishment, 20 steps" written on it. Eldest senior brother, you get 20 steps each punishment. The rewards are very high. Do you want to give it a try? Zhou Wen asked Liu Yun. Liu Yun's face turned green when he saw the torture equipment. He immediately shook his head and said, "No way. I'll try this instead. Punishment by 1,000 cuts. Every slice of meat is 1 step. More slices, more steps. This is a punishment that can be repeatedly undertaken. Perhaps it's a better opportunity to get more steps. Can you take it?" Zhou Wen looked at the torture chamber and saw that there was an iron chain hanging on the beam. Beside it was a dagger. With one look, he roughly understood that one was going to be cuffed by the hands and hoisted up before having the dagger slice off pieces of meat. As a man, anything can be done to live. I'll do it. Liu Yun knew that if he wanted to live, he had to risk it. Without any hesitation, Liu Yun followed Chu He's earlier instructions and shouted at the punishment by 1,000 cuts chamber. "I want to undertake punishment by 1,000 cuts." The moment he finished his sentence, his body vanished as though he had teleported. Zhou Wen looked over and saw that his hands had been cuffed and he was hanging in the torture chamber. The tiny blade was picked up by a white ghost-like creature before it slashed at Liu Yun's thigh. The small blade was like a saw as it sliced back and forth, bit by bit. A piece of flesh fell from Liu Yun's thigh. It had to be said that the white ghost's blade techniques were first-rate. The flesh that was sliced off was as thin as a cicada's wing and was almost transparent. It was comparable to a top chef. Zhou Wen roughly understood why the flesh sliced off was so thin. It wasn't because they were afraid of the victim dying, but because if it was too thick, he wouldn't have enough flesh to cut 1,000 slices. It naturally couldn't be considered a punishment by 1,000 cuts. It was only 1 slice, but Liu Yun's face was pale from the pain. Not much flesh had been sliced off, but the wound was nothing in comparison to the pain. Liu Yun gritted his teeth and didn't say a word. The small blade continued to slice off another piece of flesh. When Zhou Wen looked at Liu Yun again, his forehead was breaking out in cold sweat. Chu He's heart trembled as he watched from the side. Such a bloody and cruel punishment made one's hair stand on end. Liu Yun didn't even grunt as the blade sliced through his flesh. He was like a classic example of a true man. Even Zhou Wen couldn't help but be impressed. Liu Yun was truly unyielding. To Zhou Wen's surprise, Liu Yun's wounds didn't bleed much. Every time the tiny blade sliced off a piece of flesh, the wound would automatically contract without much bleeding. "Eldest senior brother, I couldn't tell. You've also practiced such a powerful self-recovery technique," Zhou Wen exclaimed. "Self-recovery my ass. It's the power of the torture chamber that prevents me from bleeding. It's afraid I'll die before I complete the 1,000 cuts," cursed Liu Yun. He wasn't really such a hot-tempered person. All he wanted to do was to vent his pain through his cursing. After 23 slices, the unyielding Liu Yun finally couldn't hold it in any longer. He shouted, "I give up on continuing the torture." With a clang, the metal cuff released and Liu Yun's body fell. However, when he landed, he returned to the stone slab he was on before the punishment. Indeed, the number on his stone slab increased by 23. See, isn't it simple? I got it to increase by 23 in no time at all. Try a few more torture chambers, and it won't be a problem for us to reach the netherworld divine throne, Liu Yun said with a pale face. Ignoring Zhou Wen, even Chu he could tell that Liu Yun was merely comforting himself. Chapter 645. Scream loudly if you are in pain. If we have to continue being tortured like this, I'm afraid we will be dead long before we can finish all the punishments. Zhou Wen looked at Chu He and asked, Professor Chu, other than being punished, is there any other way to obtain steps? Previously, when we came, we encountered some dimensional creatures. Would they leave anything special after they die? Chu He shook his head firmly and said, There's no other way. Only by being tortured in the torture chamber can one obtain more steps. Zhou Wen turned his head and looked at the long street. Apart from them, the others had entered the torture chambers to be punished. It was a pity that he couldn't hear anything beyond 10 steps. Otherwise, he would definitely be able to hear the undulating screams. Junior brother, do you want to give punishment by 1,000 cuts a try as well? Perhaps you can last longer than me. Liu Yun encouraged him. He wanted to see how long Zhou Wen could last under such torture. I think I'll forget about it. Zhou Wen shook his head and looked around. He planned on attempting a less severe punishment. Although they could enter the torture chamber directly without needing to walk over, they needed to be within 10 steps of one. If the torture chamber was too far from them, they wouldn't be able to undergo the punishment. Now, there was only one torture chamber to their left and right that were within 10 steps away. On the left was the punishment by 1,000 cuts which Liu Yun had attempted. On the right was punishment by whipping. On it stated a step per lash. It was similar to punishment by 1,000 cuts. One was hoisted up for the punishment. However, it wasn't the slicing of flesh but lashing with a whip. Liu Yun was also looking at the whip. Seeing that it was a vine whip, he said, Then let me try the punishment. My body is quite tough. I should be able to withstand it a few more times. With that said, Liu Yun shouted at the whipping torture chamber, I want to undertake punishment by whipping. Just like the last time, Liu Yun's body vanished. He was hung in the whipping torture chamber. Then, a white ghost-like figure appeared and picked up the vine whip. The vine whip was lashed out by the white figure. Sharp spikes appeared on the originally smooth whip, making it appear like a thorny vine. Pa! With a crisp sound, a bloody whip mark appeared on Liu Yun's body. After a few whips, Liu Yun's body was reduced to a bloody mess. It was even more terrifying than punishment by 1,000 cuts. This time, Liu Yun only held on for about 10 whips before giving up. After being released, he looked a little shriveled. FCK, this isn't giving us a way out. How can humans withstand such punishment? Death by punishment. Death also by not undergoing punishment. Why should we be punished? Liu Yun cursed. I'll give it a try too. Zhou Wen thought for a moment and shouted at the whipping torture chamber, I want to undertake punishment by whipping. The moment he finished his sentence, Zhou Wen felt his vision blur. His body seemed to be teleported by some force. By the time he reacted, he was already hung up in the whipping chamber. A white ghost appeared in front of him. It had already gripped the vine whip. Junior brother, scream loudly if you are in pain. Don't endure it. The more you endure, the more painful it will be. It will be much better if you shout out loud. The louder you shout, the better, Liu Yun said gloatingly. He was actually just trying to find pleasure amidst the suffering, hoping to reduce his stress. He didn't really want to hear Zhou Wen scream. All right, Zhou Wen replied as he switched his essence energy art to Dao Body and God's Retreat before closing his eyes. However, the God's Retreat life providence didn't affect the white ghost. Clearly, the punishment in the torture chamber wasn't a taboo power. Seeing that God's Retreat was useless, Zhou Wen hurriedly switched to small perfection of wisdom. At the same time, he activated the Hell King Life Soul. Under the effects of the Hell King Life Soul, Zhou Wen's control over his body was extremely strong. Not only did his physique strengthen, but he could also eliminate the pain. No matter how serious his injuries were, Zhou Wen wouldn't feel any pain. It was as though his pain nerves had been removed. Zhou Wen didn't plan on constantly being punished. All he wanted to do was try out the force of the whipping punishment. However, just as Zhou Wen used the Hell King Life Soul, the white specter that had already lashed out suddenly retracted its whip without striking. "Junior brother, what's going on? Don't tell me you can't even withstand a whip and are giving up," Liu Yun said when he saw the scene before him, imagining that Zhou Wen had given up. However, what happened next left Liu Yun's mouth agape. The white ghost with the whip actually plopped to the ground and kowtowed. It lay prone, trembling. Crack! The shackles that bound Zhou Wen's hands automatically opened, allowing him to land. However, Zhou Wen hadn't given up on being tortured, so he didn't return to the long street. Instead, he landed in the whipping chamber. His feet landed on the ground, but there were no numbers on the floor. Perhaps it was because the steps didn't count in the torture chambers. "Junior brother, what's going on?" Liu Yun stared at Zhou Wen with his mouth agape as he looked at the trembling white ghost in front of Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen never expected his Hell King Life Soul to have such an effect. Looking at the white ghost sprawled on the ground, Zhou Wen pondered for a moment before saying to it, "Stand up." The white ghost was very obedient. It obediently stood up, but its body was still trembling. It looked extremely frightened. "Don't be afraid. Come, whip me," Zhou Wen said gently to the white ghost. The white ghost trembled again as it collapsed to the ground and kowtowed to Zhou Wen. "Stand up. I order you to whip me," Zhou Wen said coldly to the white ghost. The white ghost crawled up trembling as it held the whip in its hand, but it didn't dare to whip Zhou Wen. "It's fine. I'm giving you permission to whip me, but you have to whip me gently. Just gently touch me," Zhou Wen instructed the white ghost. The white ghost held the whip, but it didn't dare attack. Zhou Wen glared at it before it finally flung the whip and struck Zhou Wen's body. The whip whistled through the air, but it only touched Zhou Wen's clothes and immediately retracted. Zhou Wen felt his skin being touched by his clothes. There was no pain at all. The white ghost was terrified. It sprawled on the ground and kowtowed again. "You did well. That's right. Do it again. Lash me a few more times," Zhou Wen encouraged. Only then did the white ghost stand up shakily and lashed at Zhou Wen's body again. Just like before, it retracted once the whip touched his clothes. Zhou Wen found a spot to sit down. As he took out his phone, he got the white ghost to torture him. "This spot, a little heavier here, my shoulders are a little sore, strike this side, use more strength." Zhou Wen kept directing the white ghost to attack the various parts of his body. Seriously, Liu Yun and Chu He were dumbfounded. The originally terrifying atmosphere was now gone. The white ghost held the vine whip and served Zhou Wen like it was a masseur at a massage parlor. Chapter 646, Dead Man. Only when the torture chambers along the entire street closed was Zhou Wen forcefully teleported out, returning him to the stone slab he was on. Zhou Wen, Liu Yun, and Chu He looked at the stone slab beneath Zhou Wen's feet and saw that the number on the stone slab had changed to 1369. In other words, Zhou Wen had obtained more than 1,000 steps during the torture chamber's opening. This was the same number Zhou Wen had secretly taken note of. So this can really increase the number of steps. Zhou Wen felt a lot more relaxed. With the Hell King's strength, the problem with insufficient steps was resolved. However, he couldn't completely relax. Although the Hell King's strength could intimidate the torture chamber, it was unable to withstand the rules of Netherworld City. Zhou Wen took a step while maintaining the Hell King Life Soul state. The subsequent steps would still decrease, indicating that the rules of Netherworld City were were still effective on him. Now, he had only resolved the problem of the number of steps. He had yet to resolve the 3 ironclad rules of Netherworld City. He had to think of a way to leave as soon as possible. How did you do it? He looked at Zhou Wen in surprise. He had never seen someone undergo such torture like Zhou Wen. Liu Yun also wanted to know how Zhou Wen had done it. This fellow constantly surprised him. He originally thought that he was doing pretty well. Although he wasn't a member of the 6 families, he had the resources and skills that young geniuses of the 6 families didn't have. However, he never expected Zhou Wen to be even more equipped than him. He had all sorts of abilities, as though he could resolve anything he encountered. Perhaps my essence energy art is effective against the white ghosts in the torture chamber, Zhou Wen said half-truthfully. Junior brother, tell me you won't leave your adorable and kind eldest senior brother behind, right? Liu Yun was somewhat worried that Zhou Wen would leave after he had enough steps. How can that be? I'm still hoping that you will take me to the endless sea of stars, Zhou Wen said. Junior brother, you're right. After we leave, I'll definitely take you to the endless sea of stars and help you obtain Star Stealer. Liu Yun paused before saying, you can walk freely, but I don't have enough steps. What should I do? When the torture chamber opens again next time, you and I will choose the same punishment room. When the time comes, I'll get the white ghosts to take care of you. There you will naturally be given the needed steps, Zhou Wen said. Teacher really has good taste. Junior brother, you're really an amazing genius. I think that no one can be as glorious as you even if the 6 heroes were revived, Liu Yun said obsequiously. Zhou Wen didn't believe a word he said. Although he was someone who seemed truthful, no one knew which sentences were true. If he hadn't wanted to go to the endless sea of stars, Zhou Wen really didn't wish to be with Liu Yun. Although he was also Fang Minjuan's student, perhaps because Liu Yun had entered society a few years earlier than them, he felt that he wasn't trustworthy like Jiang Yan, Xianxia, and Huihei Feng. Of course, it was also possible that this was because Zhou Wen had never interacted with Liu Yun. The 3 of them waited for another hour. After the bell rang again, the torture chambers opened again. Zhou Wen chose to enter the torture chamber. Liu Yun and he also chose punishment by whipping. The 3 of them hung side by side in the whipping chamber. Immediately, 3 white ghosts appeared. Each of them had a vine whip and was about to whip them. The moment Zhou Wen's Hell King Life Soul appeared, the 3 white ghosts immediately knelt down and trembled as though Zhou Wen was about to eat them. Hence, the 3 of them sat side by side in the whipping chamber to be punished. This was the first time Liu Yun experienced the feeling of being raised on a pedestal. He grunted comfortably and said, Junior brother, if I had known that you had this ability, I wouldn't have suffered the pain of punishment by 1,000 cuts so much. I only realized it after entering the torture chamber, Zhou Wen said casually. After the torture chamber closed, Zhou Wen had close to 3,000 steps. He and Liu Yun had more than 1,000 steps. As long as we do it again, we should have enough steps to reach the Netherworld Divine Throne, Liu Yun said happily. Just as Zhou Wen was about to say something, he saw someone explode on the long street. Blood splattered everywhere and was quickly absorbed by the ground. That person's step count was used up. He couldn't withstand the punishment and ended his life. He sighed. Zhou Wen realized that there were fewer people on the long street. Now, there were only 24 people left. The few who had vanished probably died in the torture chambers. The 3 of them continued waiting. As for Zhou Wen, he used the taboo power of Netherworld City to constantly train his jade infant. The jade infant looked cold like a jade statue, but it later turned crystalline. However, with the baptism of the taboo power, the jade infant gradually softened. It was like a transparent jelly, as if its body had turned soft. Is it about to break through? Zhou Wen had a vague feeling that the jade infant was really about to break through. He was only half a step away. Another hour passed. The three of them were once again tortured. By the time they came out, Zhou Wen's steps had exceeded 4,000. The other two were almost nearing 3,000. This should be enough. Let's go. Liu Yun was in high spirits as he led the way. He naturally followed them. Zhou Wen wanted to bring He out of this place before investigating if he was the real He. Soon, Zhou Wen discovered some problems. He's combat standards were very poor. He hadn't advanced to the epic stage and was only at the legendary stage. When he encountered dimensional creatures on the way, it was Zhou Wen and Liu Yun who helped him block them. Professor Chu, you don't seem to be good at combat. How did you walk so far before we came? Zhou Wen asked He in puzzlement. He thought for a moment and said, before you came, I didn't step on a stone slab that generated any cause of death. Then, Professor Chu, your luck is really good. Although Zhou Wen was somewhat suspicious, he couldn't think of any other possibility other than this explanation. Soon, Zhou Wen and company caught up to the people in front of them. However, all of them seemed numb. Zhou Wen and Liu Yun wanted to communicate with them, but all they did was grunt. It was as though they had fallen deep into despair. Forget it. There's no way to communicate like this. Let's go, said Liu Yun. Zhou Wen nodded and continued walking forward. Every time he encountered a person, Zhou Wen would attempt to communicate with them, but the further he went, the number they became. The subsequent ones ignored them like wooden statues. These people seemed to have some problems. When I first met Professor He had similar tendencies. However, he was the closest to the city gate and had the mildest symptoms. It's no wonder I felt that he was a little odd from the beginning. I thought it was a result of not having spoken to others for a long time, but from the looks of it, that's not the case, Zhou Wen thought to himself. However, he didn't say anything because he was beside him. Soon, the three of them reached the end of the long street and stepped onto the stone steps. With every step they took, the consumption of their footsteps tripled. One step was equivalent to taking 3 steps on the stone slabs. The 365 stone steps consumed just over 1,000 steps. Only Zhou Wen had enough steps. He and Liu Yun didn't have enough. Zhou Wen had no choice but to wait for the bell to ring again. He got them to find a torture chamber nearby and obtain enough steps before climbing the stone steps. Clang! After Zhou Wen struck the bell, he saw the golden divine throne slowly open. Behind it was Netherworld City's exit, allowing him to see the desert outside. However, City Lord Netherworld stood in the middle of the Netherworld divine throne, blocking their path. He glanced at the trio before his gaze landed on Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen was already prepared for battle. He didn't believe that he could leave Netherworld City so easily. The two of you can leave. He needs to stay. City Lord Netherworld didn't take action. He only extended his index finger and pointed at He. He can also ring the Netherworld bell. Why can't he leave? Zhou Wen asked with a frown. Because he's already a dead person, said City Lord Netherworld indifferently. What do you mean? He's clearly a living person. How can he be a dead person? Liu Yun said. Zhou Wen suddenly thought of something as he turned to look at He and asked, Professor Chu, what's the exact date of your entry to Netherworld City? It should be March 8, 28. Why? He asked in surprise. Zhou Wen's expression changed immediately. This was because it was the year the old professor and company had gone to Zhualu. In other words, he had entered Netherworld City that year, but he had always believed that he had only entered Netherworld City today. There was only one possibility. With He's ability, it was impossible for him to survive in Netherworld City. Therefore, he had died long ago. However, He was standing in front of him, looking alive. It was hard to believe that he was a dead person. Chapter 647, The First Day is Also the Last Day. "No, I'm not a dead person. I'm still alive." Chu, he screamed in terror. His hand was still touching his body all over, as though he was trying to confirm if he was really dead. Liu Yun was abnormally bold. He reached out and pulled Chu He's face. He said in disbelief, "He's clearly a normal person. How can he be a dead person?" Zhou Wen couldn't tell in what way he was a dead person. His body, heart rate and temperature were all normal. Apart from appearing a little slow in thought, he couldn't tell how he looked like a dead person. However, if he hadn't died, it was difficult to explain how he entered Netherworld City so long ago, only to claim that he had only entered today. If you aren't afraid that his soul will dissipate and vanish forever, take him out of the city, said City Lord Netherworld as he made way. Can we really leave? Liu Yun looked at City Lord Netherworld with distrust. In the years he had spent in society, he naturally understood the principle that human words couldn't be trusted. Also, it was a dimensional creature who said those words. Furthermore, it was the owner of the Netherworld. It sounded like true nonsense. As long as he isn't afraid of his soul dissipating, just walk out of Netherworld City, City Lord Netherworld said indifferently. Professor Chu, what do you think? Do you want to go out with us? Liu Yun asked Chu He. I want to go out. I'm not a dead person, Chu He hurriedly said. Zhou Wen looked at City Lord Netherworld and asked. We also entered Netherworld City. Why are we not dead but Professor Chu He is? City Lord Netherworld seemed to be very patient. He glanced at Zhou Wen and answered. Didn't the ghost gates make it clear when you entered the city? None of the 3 ironclad rules of Netherworld City can be violated. Since he didn't walk out the city alive on the day he entered, he's naturally dead. I'm not dead. I'm really not dead. Don't believe him. Take me away. Chu He's eyes were bloodshot and his mental state was very unstable. It wasn't Chu He's fault. Anyone who suddenly heard, in such a straightforward manner, that they were dead would be as nervous as Chu He. Professor Chu, don't worry. I believe you. Leave the city with us, Liu Yun said as he patted Chu He's shoulder. Although Zhou Wen was suspicious, he couldn't confirm that He was really a dead person. After some hesitation, he looked at Chu He and said, Professor Chu, you can choose whether you want to leave this place. I'll go with you. I'm really not a dead person, Chu He said immediately. All right, let's go then. Zhou Wen stared at City Lord Netherworld and moved his feet towards the entrance formed by the Netherworld Divine Throne. Chu He and Liu Yun followed Zhou Wen as they walked out of the door. At the same time, they were wary of City Lord Netherworld and prepared for battle. However, City Lord Netherworld only watched from the side without any intention of stopping them. Outside, in the desert, the sun was high in the sky. Beyond the Netherworld Divine Throne, there was bright sunlight. However, inside the Netherworld Divine Throne, it appeared eerie and dark. Liu Yun walked in front and stepped out first, standing under the sun in the desert. Zhou Wen walked at the back, constantly wary of City Lord Netherworld who didn't move at all. All he did was look at them coldly. He stood in the shadows, one step away from the desert and the sun. However, he was somewhat hesitant. Although he was certain he wasn't dead, City Lord Netherworld had said it with such certainty. Furthermore, Zhou Wen and Liu Yun had said that he had been in Netherworld City for a long time, making him somewhat afraid. I'm definitely not a dead person. I'm definitely not a dead person. He gritted his teeth and extended his palm towards the sun. Just as his fingertip touched the sunlight, a blue light suddenly appeared. The tip of his finger that had extended out actually disintegrated and disappeared in the blue light. Ah, how is this happening? He screamed as he retracted his palm. His face was filled with disbelief and despair. Zhou Wen's expression changed slightly as he extended his hand and extended it into the sunlight. There wasn't any problem. All he felt was that the temperature outside was very high and the sunlight was a little scorching, but it was still acceptable. Professor Chu, try extending your hand again. Zhou Wen said to Chu He as he stood in the shadow of the netherworld divine throne, maintaining his hand in the sunlight. Chu He hurriedly extended his hand, but when his fingertip touched the sunlight, it immediately disintegrated. Impossible. I can't be a dead person. Impossible. I still have to return to see my family. My wife and daughter are waiting for me. Chu He slumped to the ground as his voice sounded disconsolate. Tears flowed down his face. Zhou Wen was momentarily at a loss as to what to do. He couldn't bear to see Chu He's present state as he looked at City Lord Netherworld and asked, if he doesn't leave, what will happen in the future? City Lord Netherworld calmly said, he will receive punishment day after day, dying day after day. In the future, every day will be his first day. It will also be his last day, until his soul reaches absolute purity. Zhou Wen thought of the others on the long street. Those people were in much worse condition than Chu He. From the looks of it, what City Lord Netherworld said was true. What happens in the future? Zhou Wen asked again. Who knows? If you are interested, you can stay and give it a try, City Lord Netherworld said with a faint smile. Zhou Wen looked at Chu He, unsure of what to say. Zhou Wen, can you do me a favor? Chu He wiped his tears and asked Zhou Wen. Tell me. I'll do it if I can, Zhou Wen said. Help me pay my family a visit. If possible, help me take care of my wife and daughter. When they are in trouble, help them as much as you can. I don't have anything to repay you now. My research on the Nia civilization is all that I have. If you don't mind, treat it as payment. Chu He handed the documents in his backpack to Zhou Wen. Many of them were handwritten notes. Don't worry. I'll take care of them. Zhou Wen took the documents and nodded seriously. Even without Chu He's request, Zhou Wen would have made a trip to Chu He's place. He still needed to figure out the matter regarding Chu He. Don't tell them that I'm here. They've already been saddened once. Don't let them be sad again, Chu He said to Zhou Wen again. I know what to do. Zhou Wen nodded. Go. Don't look back, Chu He said, somewhat disheartened. Zhou Wen had no choice but to turn around and walk out of the netherworld divine throne. If you have the chance to come again, next time you can try to withstand all the punishments. Then, you will see the real netherworld city. The moment Zhou Wen walked out of the netherworld divine throne, he heard the voice of City Lord Netherworld. However, he had already walked out. When he looked back, he saw endless yellow sand behind him. There was no sign of the netherworld divine throne or netherworld city. It was as though everything that had happened was just a dream. Chapter 648, Hat City. Zhou Wen suddenly felt something amiss in his hand. He looked down and saw the notebook seemingly burn with invisible flames, turning to ashes. Oh no! Zhou Wen immediately reacted. These notebooks should have long been destroyed with Chu He's death. What Chu He had given him couldn't be kept in the living world. Before the notebook was completely reduced to ashes, Zhou Wen flipped through a few pages, but he didn't see much content before the information was reduced to ashes. The desert wind blew, leaving no traces behind. It's really like a dream. I never expected that I, Liu Yun, would make a trip to the netherworld and come back alive. What great luck, Liu Yun said with lingering fear. Don't think about that for now. Just take a look and see if you can tell where we are. Can you still find the way to the endless sea of stars? Zhou Wen perked up and sized up his surroundings. There was yellow sand all around them. All he could see was a boundless desert with no end in sight. Zhou Wen couldn't even work out his bearings. No problem. Leave it to me. However, do you really want to go to the endless sea of stars? We seem to be a little unlucky. I'm afraid something will happen again. Liu Yun glanced at the bamboo blade on Zhou Wen's waist before throwing the orchid blade back to him. He didn't want to carry this with him for even an additional moment. Does being unlucky mean that we should stay at home all day? What's the point of living like that? Zhou Wen took the orchid blade and said, "That's true. All right, let's continue." Liu Yun didn't say anything else. He looked around and summoned his companion beast to dig a deep hole, as though he was observing the sand or something else. Zhou Wen did not know how Liu Yun figured out his bearings. As he led the way, he observed the plants and sand in the desert before slowly adjusting his direction. The desert was already boundless. After the dimensional storms, it had become even wider. Even epic experts would probably be trapped to death if they got lost. Thankfully, Zhou Wen had brought plenty of water and food. He didn't have to be afraid of being trapped in the desert. After repeatedly walking and stopping on the fourth day, an oasis appeared in front of them. "We're here." Liu Yun pointed at the oasis and shouted in joy. "Is that oasis the endless sea of stars?" Zhou Wen asked in surprise. "No, that oasis is where I usually replenish my water. However, we aren't far from the endless sea of stars once we reach here. It'll take another 2 days at most," said Liu Yun. Zhou Wen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had plenty of pure water in his chaos space, so he didn't need an oasis to replenish it. However, Zhou Wen didn't tell Liu Yun about the chaos bead. He always retrieved water from his backpack. Liu Yun naturally didn't know about it, so he had been economical along the way and was very thirsty. All he did was take a tiny sip of water to quench his thirst. This oasis grew much vegetation that Zhou Wen didn't recognize. There was a tree, but it looked like grass with thick roots. It looked very strange. What surprised Zhou Wen was that there was actually a city in the oasis. However, the city was very simple. The city walls were made of clay and looked like crude concrete. This is Hat City. Legend has it that it was built by the residents of the desert in the past. Back then, there was plenty of water here, but as the water source decreased, many residents left Hat City, causing it to gradually become abandoned. According to the elders in the desert, Hat City could accommodate tens of thousands of people during its golden years. However, due to the depletion of the water source, the area around the oasis shrank. Most of the buildings have been buried under the yellow sand. Together with the arrival of the dimensional storms, there's no one here. Apart from some guides in the desert who occasionally come here to replenish their water, you usually wouldn't even see a soul. As he spoke, Liu Yun had already led Zhou Wen into Hat City. As Liu Yun had said, many of the buildings here were half buried in the sand. These buildings should have been used to extract materials from the ground. They used yellow sand to mix with something, creating materials that resembled concrete. Not long after entering the city, Zhou Wen saw a pitch-black behemoth. On careful look, it was a black cube. "There's a black cube in Hat City." Zhou Wen was somewhat surprised. "What's so strange about that?" "Many human ruins have black cubes," Liu Yun said disapprovingly as he walked towards the well in the oasis. The desert well was more like an underground cellar. There were stairs that allowed one to walk down, and deep inside was a pool. However, the water in the pool wasn't very clean. Liu Yun excitedly poured it into the water bag, but Zhou Wen stood still. He didn't want to drink the water. "Why aren't you getting some water?" "In the desert, water is life. You can lack everything else, but you can't lack water," Liu Yun said to Zhou Wen. "It's okay, I already have some," Zhou Wen said as he left the well. He wanted to take a spin in Hat City. However, just as he left the well, he saw the black cube light up. On the screen were 2 companion beasts fighting. One of them was a golden giant. The other companion beast was the Orochi that Zhou Wen had seen before. The golden giant roared like a war god. Every punch emitted a dazzling light that resembled the sun. The Orochi's 8 heads spewed out all sorts of essence energy, but they failed to block the golden giant's attack. However, the lashing of its 8 tails made it tie with the golden giant. The fist collided with the snake's tails, producing the sound of metal clashing. Terrifying shock waves and sparks erupted, as though they were divine weapons clashing. The golden giant seemed to hold the advantage, but it was not enough to kill Orochi. Zhou Wen watched for a while and found something strange. Orochi had 8 heads and 8 tails, but when it fought the golden giant, there was always a tail stuck to the ground. The other 7 snake tails fought the golden giant, but that tail never came into contact with it. Just as Zhou Wen was pondering over it, he saw the golden giant's fists suddenly slam into one another. Under the collision, a golden beam of light appeared. The golden giant grabbed the beam with one hand and transformed it into a gigantic blade of light. It slashed at the body of Orochi. Its might was so powerful that it was most likely the power of the golden giant's wheel of destiny. It wanted to end the battle. At that moment, Zhou Wen saw the snake's tail, which had never taken part in the battle, move. It was like the tail of a rattlesnake as it rapidly twitched and slashed out with an unparalleled sword beam. Clang! The golden giant's blade beam was sliced apart by the sword beam. Its body was also slashed open, leaving a long gash. It nearly tore through its chest and killed it. Thankfully, its physique was indeed powerful, so it wasn't halved. However, it didn't have much combat strength left. It was summoned back by its master as a show of admitting defeat. Chapter 649, Behemoth Return. As the golden giant was defeated, Orochi's 8 heads rose up again and spat out 8 words. The Federation is incompetent. The heroes are shameless. This was not the first time the words had appeared. More accurately, it was the 3rd time. Apart from the time when Ice Elemental Sprite Queen was defeated, there was also a mythical dimensional creature that challenged Orochi, only to end in defeat. After that victory, Orochi similarly spat out the words. Now that the golden giant was defeated again, the entire Federation seemed to explode. Public opinion turned to question the abilities of the 6 hero families. If they couldn't even deal with a single Orochi, how could they uphold the Federation's peace? There were even some relatively biting media outlets that directly used headlines like, "Are the descendants of the heroes still heroes?" to criticize the 6 families in action. This was especially so for the West District's media. They bombarded the family clan of gods and Cape family with various opinions. As the Zhang, Xia, and Dugu families hadn't taken action to date, they weren't as miserable as the other 3 families, even though they were constantly questioned. After all, they hadn't been defeated. In theory, they still had the ability to win. They were different from the Cape family, and the family clan of gods who had been defeated one after another. The 6 families also knew that their various schemes and arrangements were made to win the final championship. Now, an Orochi had stirred up the situation, disrupting their plans. If they revealed their trump cards, it wouldn't be difficult to kill Orochi. However, if that happened, they would lose the chance to vie for first place with the other families. Therefore, they could only send inferior mythical companion beasts to fight, but the outcome was defeat. The Zhang, Xia, and Dugu families were even more depressed. Of all times, the core forces of their 3 families had gone to the southern wilderness's dimensional zones. Although there were others who could fight, the companion beasts were still in their plans. If they were exposed ahead of time, it would trigger a series of chain reactions and disrupt their plans. As such, the Federation's situation became very delicate. None of the 6 families were willing to expose their top mythical companion beasts, but they ended up being defeated by Orochi 3 times in a row. It left the entire Federation citizens ashamed. From the looks of it, we can only expose some things ahead of time. Those few families are shameless, but our Xia family can't be shameless. Xia Dongyu was still hesitating as to which mythical companion beast his family was to assign. Not only was Orochi proficient in various attributes, but its physique was also powerful. With the indomitable sword beam, it could be said to be an extremely comprehensive mythical companion beast. It wasn't easy to defeat it cleanly and beautifully. Why did Liuchuan have to go to the southern wilderness at such a time? Xia Dongyu thought gloomily. If Zia Liuchuan was here, his companion beast would be best at restraining a companion beast like Orachi. If the enemy wasn't prepared, it wouldn't be impossible to kill it in one strike. Unfortunately, Zia Liuchuan wasn't around, causing Zia Dongyu to have a headache. The Zia family wasn't the only one with a headache. The other 5 families were also having a headache. At this stage, if they didn't defeat Orachi, the reputation of the 6 families would probably be damaged. The few families had already planned on sending their top companion beasts to battle, but at that moment, the black cube lit up. The media had been bombarding the 6 families for their inaction. They hoped that they could step forward as soon as possible. Just as they were in a frenzy, they realized that the black cube had lit up. They thought that the 6 families had made a move. However, they soon discovered that the entity who appeared on the cube was Tyrant Behemoth, who had previously given up. Why is Tyrant Behemoth out again? Didn't it not dare to accept the battle previously? It should be challenging other companion beasts, right? Giving up without a fight means it already knew it was no match for its opponent. Now that it's back again, it's definitely not challenging Orachi. Anyone can tell that a companion beast, like Orachi, is the nemesis of Tyrant Behemoth. No matter how strong its physique and strength is, it can't withstand the indomitable tail of Orachi. Everyone believed that Tyrant Behemoth wanted to challenge the other companion beasts and board the rankings again, but to their surprise, when the name of the challenger lit up, it was Orachi. What's going on? Didn't it give up earlier? Why is it making the challenge now? What kind of show is this? Despite knowing that the companion beast's characteristics are restrained, they are still forcefully challenging Orachi. Could it be that our Federation really doesn't have any stronger companion beasts? We can only let the restrained Tyrant Behemoth fight. Instantly, voices of doubt and speculation arose. People were discussing why Tyrant Behemoth wanted to challenge Orachi at this moment. Zhou Wen didn't think too much about it. He was also a member of the Federation, so he felt uncomfortable being insulted like this. Of course, it was mainly because Zhou Wen had the intention to get high on the rankings. Furthermore, he could take down Orachi, who had gotten to its position by kicking Tyrant Behemoth out. After watching the battle between Orachi and the Golden Giant, Zhou Wen now knew the strength of Orachi. It wouldn't be difficult for Tyrant Behemoth to defeat Orachi. It was a piece of cake. Not only could he get a high ranking, but it could also frighten everyone. It could also attack the evil ones overseas. It was killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Why not? Therefore, Zhou Wen summoned Tyrant Behemoth and allowed it to ascend the cube to challenge Orachi. Are you finally coming out? Yusugi now looked at Tyrant Behemoth on the cube screen and chose to accept the challenge without any hesitation. She knew that Tyrant Behemoth's owner must have studied Orachi for a long time. However, she was confident that with Orachi's characteristics, it could definitely restrain Tyrant Behemoth. Under her command, it definitely wouldn't lose. The entire world's media saw that Orachi had accepted the challenge. Instantly, all the major channels and online platforms were live streaming the cube screen. A little boy held his mother's hand and stood in front of the big screen on the street. He asked worriedly, "Can Tyrant Behemoth win?" "He will definitely win." His mother consoled him gently. "But we've already lost twice." The boy was still somewhat worried. "Don't worry. No matter how many times we lose, there will always be heroes in the Federation who can step forward to save the world." "Perhaps that hero is Tyrant Behemoth," said his mother. The boy didn't say anything. He only clenched his fist and looked at the big screen nervously. Boom! Orachi landed in the arena. Its huge body was ferocious and terrifying. The 8 snakeheads raised together as its eerie snake eyes stared intently at Tyrant Behemoth. Tyrant Behemoth maintained a height of a few meters and didn't gigantify. Compared to the massive Orachi, it appeared somewhat weak. However, Everyone knew that Tyrant Behemoth could still gigantify. Its body wouldn't be smaller than Orochi. To everyone's surprise, Tyrant Behemoth didn't transform. Instead, it leaped up and punched one of Orochi's heads. Chapter 650. What Others Think of a Tyrant. Translator, C.K. Talon. Orochi didn't underestimate its enemy. The 8 snakeheads spewed out essence energy projectiles of different attributes at the same time. The 7 tails also danced wildly as they lashed at Tyrant Behemoth. Roar! A roar shook the world. A crown appeared on Tyrant Behemoth's head. Although it didn't expand, its entire body was bathed in bloody red light as though it had been enhanced by some magical power. Boom! 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 Tyrant Behemoth constantly threw out its fists like a storm. The essence energy projectiles that Orochi spewed out were blasted apart by Tyrant Behemoth's fists akin to exploding fireworks. When the 7 snake tails touched its fist, they emitted a terrifying metallic clang as they were sent flying. The scales on its tail shattered. Bam! Tyrant Behemoth rushed in front of Orochi and punched its head, sending its entire body flying. Orochi tumbled far away before stopping. As for the snakehead which had been hit, it was mostly crushed by the terrifying augmentation of the crown. Impressive, it's even stronger than the golden giant. As expected of Behemoth. Such strength is really amazing. I'm afraid no companion beast can match it in terms of strength. The boy pulled his mother's hand and exclaimed excitedly, "Mommy, Tyrant Behemoth is amazing. It's really powerful." "That's right. It's really very powerful." His mother smiled and nodded, but she was still somewhat worried. This was because she knew very well that Orochi's true trump card had yet to be used. And the snake tail with a terrifying sword beam was the nemesis of strength-type companion beasts like Tyrant Behemoth. Many people were equally worried. Orochi's tail sword beam was just too powerful. Up to now, no companion beast had been able to withstand a strike from that tail. Although Tyrant Behemoth displayed overwhelming strength, it was difficult to say if one could withstand the attack of the snake tail. Yusugi now didn't keep them hanging in suspense. At the instant Tyrant Behemoth charged over again, that snake tail suddenly raised. It tore through the void with a cold sword beam, slashing at Tyrant Behemoth's body. Everyone knew that the moment to decide victory was coming. If Tyrant Behemoth couldn't withstand the snake tail's slash, it would definitely lose. Everyone wanted to know if Tyrant Behemoth, who could swallow Chimera, could swallow the terrifying sword beam. When the boy saw the sword beam formed by the snake's tail, he nervously grabbed the corner of his mother's clothes. He had already seen the same scene once. The golden giant was defeated by the snake tail's sword beam despite holding the advantage. All it could do was escape with its tail in between its legs and admit defeat. However, to everyone's surprise, Tyrant Behemoth didn't use the mountain-consuming skill. Instead, it continued brandishing its fist once again to meet the shocking sword beam formed by the snake's tail. At that instant, Tyrant Behemoth's body seemed to shrink again. The strange red glow on its body also turned black-red. Tyrant Behemoth's entire body seemed to turn into a black hole. The light couldn't escape when it landed on its body. Clang! Tyrant Behemoth collided with the sword beam, and the sword beam immediately shattered. The fist directly collided with the snake's tail. The indestructible snake tail wasn't able to cleave apart Tyrant Behemoth's fist. It only left a sword mark. Heavens, ladies and gentlemen, did you see that? Orochi's killer blow wasn't able to cleave apart Tyrant Behemoth's fist. The terrifying killing technique that nearly killed the golden giant only left a sword mark on Tyrant Behemoth's fist. Such injuries can't affect Tyrant Behemoth's combat strength at all. Some of the more emotional commentators shouted. "Mommy, it blocked it. It blocked the huge snake's tail," the boy cried out excitedly. Before his mother could reply, Tyrant Behemoth had already grabbed the snake's tail and used all its strength to fling Orochi away. Bam! Orochi was slammed to the ground. Before Orochi could react, Tyrant Behemoth slammed it left and right using its tail, smashing Orochi's body to the ground like a sandbag. In a few moves, it shattered most of its bones, as though it had turned into a pool of soft flesh. The snake heads went limp. It's too violent and too bloody. Orochi isn't a match for Tyrant Behemoth at all. It's constantly being ravaged. Oh my God, I can't believe my eyes. Is that still the terrifying Orochi? In front of Tyrant Behemoth, it's nothing. Yes, that's right. Kill it, and let those overseas fellows know our Federation's true strength. It's too tragic. After this battle, I don't think those reptiles will be able to open their mouths and spit out words again. I can't tell how many heads it has left, or if they have all been smashed by Tyrant Behemoth. All the media's announcers began to cheer up. One by one, they began to tease each other. They no longer had the stern expression they had during their previous criticism. Their choice of words also began to become humorous, as all sorts of coquettish comments flew around. In comparison, there were more people in the audience. Many people who were watching online posted a large number of comments. Orochi is considering which head to use to call for help. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that it has no hands. What should it do? Daddy, stop beating me. I know I'm wrong. Mommy, love me again. Please make way. I don't want to just watch the bullet comments. Give me some screen estate. I want to see if Orochi is dead. Everything happened too quickly. Yusugi now never expected that the power of Orochi's Wheel of Destiny could not even slice apart Tyrant Behemoth's fist. She wanted to admit defeat and retrieve Orochi, but she felt as though it was being sucked in by a terrifying force. She was unable to summon it back. Bam! Another heavy blow was delivered as Orochi's body slammed into the arena. Orochi already seemed completely boneless as it collapsed to the ground. Tyrant Behemoth roared as its body instantly expanded to the size of a small mountain. It was even taller and more majestic than Orochi. It raised Orochi's tail and threw it into its mouth. A strange spirit body appeared over Yusugi now. Her entire body emitted a demonic glow as she suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face instantly turned pale, but she finally retracted Orochi. In the arena, Tyrant Behemoth's fangs bit into nothing. Orochi's body vanished, but this no longer affected the Federation citizens' revelry. Dear viewers, thank you for witnessing this great moment with me. Tyrant Behemoth lives up to its name as a tyrant. It is deserving of its title as the king of companion beasts, the nightmare of all enemies. What others think of a tyrant, I think of as a king. Your Majesty, Tyrant Behemoth, thank you for bringing us such an exciting battle.